Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, attendees and participants, and welcome to the June 14th, 2022 meeting of the City of Tampa Variance Review Board. From my left, the members of the board are
Una Johnson,
Brett Feldman,
Aaron Murphy.
and we'll give 1 second to let our last member, who's just getting here now, give his introduction.
Dustin Pastor.
Perfect. All right, thank you. Also in attendance this evening from legal, we have Kamaria Pettis-Mackel. From development coordination, we have Jane Madu. From natural resources, we have Stephen Eister. And from transportation, we have Jonathan Scott. There are some procedural rules we need to follow. When your case number and petitioner's name is called, please approach the podium. When you approach the podium, please state your name, your address, and confirm that you've been sworn. I'll say that again. When you come up to the podium, state your name, your address, and confirm that you have been sworn. Petitioner and their agent will have 10 minutes to make a presentation. All other persons or participants wishing to speak will have 3 minutes, and then the petitioner will have an additional 5 minutes for rebuttal if needed. The time periods, as stated, will be kept by the board. Any information such as pictures or plans that have not been previously submitted as part of your petition and you intend to present at this hearing for consideration in support of your petition must be individually presented and accepted by the board. After acceptance by the board, you must submit the item to staff for it to be entered and made part of the permanent record. The board bases its decision on competent and substantial evidence which is presented and which meets the criteria required by the city's Code of Ordinances. Please be sure to clearly state your hardship criteria during your presentation. A majority of the board is needed to approve your variance. The variance granted by the board will be solely and only for what is shown on the site plan and will be in compliance with any other terms and conditions stated in the approval by the board. All other city codes will need to be met. If the case is approved, your variance will expire 2 years from the date of the decision. If the case is continued, it will be continued to either the next month's VRB board agenda or the next available position on an upcoming VRB board agenda. If the case is denied, you may wish to have the Variance Review Board's decision appealed by the City Council. You must file a petition for review of the board's decision within 14 days of the written decision. You will not be able to pull any permits until after the 14-day review period has passed. Your cooperation in ensuring that this meeting is run smoothly is greatly appreciated. Can I please have a motion from one of our board members to approve the meeting minutes from the May meeting?
I motion to approve the minutes from the past meeting.
All right, is there a second?
second.
Great, and all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right. Motion passes and the minutes are approved. At this time, I'll ask legal staff to confirm whether there are any ex parte communications or conflicts.
Good evening. Kamaria Pettis-Mackel from the City Attorney's Office. Will the commissioners please state whether or not they have any conflicts of interest regarding any of the items that are listed on the agenda? Additionally, will the commissioners please state whether or not they've had any ex parte communication regarding any of the items that are on the agenda? Thank you so much.
Great.
And I believe there's just one person that's right here that needs to be included for the swearing.
Okay. Can we wait? Well, let's have her come on in. All right, terrific. All right, at this time, I would ask staff to please conduct the swearing in. For the members of the audience, if you plan to speak, if there's a chance that you might have to stand up and say something tonight, please stand and be sworn in, because otherwise when you get ready to say something and you haven't been sworn, we're just going to have to go through this whole process again. So if there's a chance you're going to speak, let's do the swearing in now. Great. At this time, I will ask city staff, are there any changes to the agenda or anything that we need to address at this time?
Good evening, board. My name is Jane Madu, Development Coordination.
There are 3 cases that are requesting to be continued to the next month, VRB hearing on July the 12th, because we do not have a translator tonight for those cases.
Okay. So that would be VRB 2215, VRB 2258, and 2261?
Correct.
All right, great. Is there a motion, can I have a motion from someone to continue those 3 cases?
Yes, I move to continue VRB 2215, VRB 2258,
When you're doing the motion, can you start stating the address?
for each one?
Yes.
Do the
Sure.
applicants have to stand? Or?
All right, I'll start over. I'd like to move that the following cases be continued to the July 12th next Variance Review Board meeting. Variance Review Board 22-15, the location at 611 North Bradford Avenue. VRB 22-58, the location at 8715 North 46th Street. And finally, VRB 22-61, the location at 4308 West Virginia Avenue.
Terrific. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. So we have a motion to continue 3 VRB cases to July 12th at 5:30 p.m. Is there a second?
A second.
All right. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right. Motion carries. 3 continuances. I also understand that we have some clarification as to 21-136, VRB 21-136. Ms. Pettis-Mackle.
Good evening, Commissioners. In regards to VRB 21-136, that application was heard by the board at the previous board meeting. There was I believe that application received a vote of 3-2.
3-1, I think.
3
it
to
was,
1?
Yeah.
I just wanted to let the board know, and the applicant, the property owner, has been updated or informed. According to Code Section 2778, a simple majority of those present and empowered to vote shall be necessary to conduct routine business and approve or deny an application for a variance. Based on that revised or updated code section, the variance was granted for VRB 21-136, and there's no other action that needs to take place regarding that application. I just wanted to inform the board and the public about that application, and again, the property owner has been informed of that.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, then that would bring us to 22-06. Ms. Madhu?
All right, the first case before the board this evening is VRB 2206. This is addressed at 3116 West Hyatt Street. The property owners are Irene and Juan Rodriguez. And the variance request before the board tonight is to reduce the front yard setback from 20 feet to 10 feet, the side yard setback from 7 feet to 0 feet, and the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 0 feet. And this is to keep unpermitted patios. The code section in reference is section 27-156, and the schedule of height, area, bulk, and placement for RS50 zoning district. The front setbacks are 20, the side 7, and the rear is 20. This is an aerial showing the subject property. It's an interior lot in the Central Tampa Planning District. And this is a work without permits. This is a site plan that the applicant has provided showing those patios, carports kind of situation. And they're on both sides of the property. This was reviewed by Natural Resources and found inconsistent with the comment that for single-family lots, 25% of the property needs to be green space. Current area max as green space is covered in pavers, an above-ground pool and sheds. And he requested that they provide a narrative on how the green space requirement will be met. Right-of-way reviewed it and found it consistent with conditions that no portion of the footers or overhang can encroach into the neighbor's property where the zero lot line setback is being considered. Transportation reviewed and found it consistent as well. And this is another drawing that has been provided by the applicant showing the proposed green space. This is a picture, these are pictures showing the patios and carport. So on the left, you have that carport for a recreational vehicle, and then you're seeing the other patio kind of porch situation. And more pictures showing that, and on the right side, you have what would be the front of the building, or front of the residence. We have received no letters of objection or support for this variance request, and there are no staff memos, but the comments have been added in the staff report. In the consideration of the variance request before you, the board shall consider section 27-80, the criteria for the approval or denial of a variance request. And if you have any questions, staff will be available on hand.
Thank you, Ms. Madhu. Is the applicant here? Come on up. Please state your name, your address, and confirm for us that you've been sworn. And you'll have 10 minutes to present to us your hardships.
My name is Lady Rodriguez. The address is 3116 West Hyatt Street.
Can you speak up louder?
Yes. My name is Lady Rodriguez. Address 3116 West Hyatt Street. The owner is my father. And his heart, I sworn in. Yeah. Okay. The covered area in the patio, it's an open space. It's not enclosed. The one that it's on the right side, that one was done about more than 2 years ago. He did not know it was required with permits. The one on the left side is to cover the RV that is parked. The one with on the right side that I just said it was done about 2 years ago, he made that covered just to do like a little, hangout space for family and members, since the house inside is not as big. He did not enclose it, as I said. And the setbacks on the rear of the property, there's a building there, and that was there when he bought the house. That was already made, and he was told it was on the property survey when he purchased the home.
Okay. Did you want to tell us a little bit about the hardships as are described in the statute, which is part of the application packet, the code criteria for variance review board consideration under 27-80? Do you want to tell us maybe something about the hardships and why we should be able to approve what you're asking for?
As I said, it was created for a little bit more space for family members, especially his mom, which is my grandmother. She's in a wheelchair, and she likes to be taken out most of the day. And that's for her to not be under the sun or under the rain. There's nowhere else outside of the house that she could be in without being covered. So that's why he basically did that too.
Okay. I heard you say that the house is small. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
The house is about, I'll say, like 800 square feet.
Okay.
It's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath.
And what is the size of the property itself? I think that's should be on your application, but.
I'm not sure about that.
Is it a typically sized property, or is it larger or smaller than normal?
I believe it's a typical size. I'm not sure.
Okay. So did you have anything else to share with us as far as the hardships under 27-80?
No.
So that completes your presentation this evening?
Yes.
With that, then, I will open it up to the audience if anyone else wishes to speak about this application. Is there anyone here to speak about this application? Seeing none, I will open it up to the board for questions. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant this evening?
The structure to the rear of the house, on one exhibit we've got, it says that it's a enclosed building, and another one says it's a detached garage. What is the rear structure used for?
It's just, he uses for either storage or whenever family comes over, they just throw a mattress in there and stay in there.
So it is air conditioned and
Yeah,
powered
it
and all
has,
that
it has a wall unit.
stuff? Okay.
Excuse me, with the detached building there, is there running water to the building
There's
there?
water and electric. It's always been there since the first day he bought the house.
And do you by chance know the approximate square footage of that building?
No, it should be less than 700 square feet, I believe. It's not that big.
So you have the detached garage that's been there since your dad acquired the property. When did he acquire the property? When he buy it?
It was, sorry, I gotta ask him, I don't remember.
More than 10 years ago?
Yeah, way more.
Okay. Then he added the cover for the RV, and he added the covered portion on the other side for family gatherings, you said?
Yes.
Okay. When did he add the covered portion for the RV?
Can I ask him? I don't.
Within the last 6 months, just?
No, it's
estimate?
been longer than that. I'll
Okay.
say more like a year and a half.
Okay, so, but after, first the one side
Yeah.
went up, then the RV side went up?
Yeah.
Okay. And can you explain to us why it needs to be at, essentially at the property lines? Is there any reason why we couldn't move those covers in 5 to 7 feet so that we can meet the side yard setbacks?
There is no space at all.
There's no space at all to move it in?
Yeah.
Okay. Even if that entailed shrinking the cover? No, okay.
I believe the one for the RV covers the whole RV, so there's no,
Right,
and then the one on the other side, I believe he has like 6 to 7 feet on the side of the home. That's all he has in there.
I see. Okay. I don't have any other questions. Does anyone else have any other questions? All right, you have 3 minutes for rebuttal if you should need it. Do you have anything else to share with us?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right, well then, with that, I will close the public hearing and open it up for a motion from the board.
Can I have a little discussion first? Well, so if we accept these 0 lot lines, that stays with the property itself.
That's you. Okay.
Give a motion shot. I move that the variance for case VRB 22-06 for the property located at 3116 West Highest Street for a reduction of front yard setback from 20 feet to 10 feet, side yard setback from 7 to 0 feet, and rear yard setback from 20 to 0 feet, be denied due to the failure of the petitioner to meet its burden of proof to provide competent and substantial evidence in the record, and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 27-80 of the city code. Specifically that there's been no hardship proven for the construction of this, and to reduce both side setbacks to 0 and the front to 10 and the rear to 0.
Okay, is there a second? Is there a second of the motion?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion? I would like to have a little bit of discussion on the motion. The rear yard setback, the detached garage was there when you acquired that property. I would be okay with bifurcating and granting the rear yard setback because it's been there since he owned the property, which is more than a decade. So I would be opposed to the motion as it currently stands, only for that purpose. But I would otherwise support the denial as to the two side yard setbacks.
At that point, would it be better for them to reapply with just the rear?
Ms. Pesman.
Kamaria Pettis-Mackel from the City Attorney's Office. So, Mr. Murphy, you've prepared a motion to address all of the variance requests, and there's 3 in this one, in this application. If the board is inclined to bifurcate the motion to take care of each variance request, each specific variance request, you could certainly do that. So you could do 3 motions, or if you want to make 2 motions in one, it's the pleasure of the motion maker on how you want to proceed.
The question he was asking, though, was whether it would be better for the applicant to reapply or after a denial.
There's a certain period in time, and we could talk with
that what
staff
you were-
about that, the certain period.
Yeah, that is my question. The rear one, I was thinking, I mean, it's been there for so long. There's so many other in the neighborhood like that. Could there possibly be a variance already approved some time ago for this rear structure?
That's not before you. If there's a variance, I don't believe that staff
It's just
presented that
That's a
information.
pretty substantial structure to have been built without a permit.
Yeah,
I'm sorry?
It's probably just non-conforming because it's just been there before the issue arose. But, I mean, to me, I would say I'd be okay with approving the rear yard setback, but not the other 2. But we can take a vote on the motion as it stands if you choose.
But you've got an issue because that building requires a 0 side yard. And once you approve the 0 side yard, you're approving the covered structure.
Ms. Pettis-Mackel, is that accurate? Is there no way to address the rear yard without
Unless you're
addressing the side yard?
unless you're able to vest.
Staff can answer that question.
Yeah.
Jamie Maddy, Development Coordination, so correct, because this is connected to that accessory
Oh,
structure.
it's connected as well?
Right, so we look at it as one, as part of the principal structure, so it's, yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, we still have a pending motion, and it is to the pleasure of the motion maker as to whether you want to amend or vote on it.
I think we should vote as stands, and if they want to modify the property and come back with a separate variance at another time, after this discussion, I think they probably have some direction.
Okay.
Second.
All right, let's go ahead and vote on it. All those in favor of the motion as it stands, say aye. All those opposed? Motion passes 4-1. Your petition has been denied.
Okay.
If you choose to appeal, you have 10 days to seek appeal from the city council, and staff can help you with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kamaria Pettis-Mackel from the City Attorney's Office. We just took care of a motion to continue VRB 22-15 to the July 12th agenda. I was just told that the applicant is requesting that to be continued to the August 9th, 2022 VRB agenda at 5:30 p.m. VRB 2215 for the property located at 611 North Bradford Avenue. Yes.
I move that VRB 22-15 for the property located at 611 North Bradford Avenue be continued to the August VRB meeting,
August 9th.
August 9th at 5:30.
Is there a second? All right, all those in favor? Any opposed? Approved.
And staff just informed me that the applicant for VRB 2258, wait, hold on one second. I'm sorry. Can we just go to the next case, which is VRB 2236?
right, the next case before the board is VRB 2236. This is addressed at 3602 East Orspin Avenue. It is Zone CG General, Commercial General, and the property owner is Temple Crest Haitian Baptist Church. And the variance request here is to reduce the required parking spaces from 36 spaces to 16 spaces. And the purpose is for the expansion of the existing church structure. Code requirement, the code section in reference is section 27-283.7, and that has the place of religious assembly requires 0.3 parking spaces per seat. This is an aerial view showing that subject property is on the corner of Osborne and North 36th Street. It is a corner lot in Central Tampa Planning District, and it's also in the East Tampa overlay. This is a site plan showing the existing structure here, and then the hatched part of it is the addition, the proposed addition to the church structure, and they're showing those parking spaces as proposed. They also have like a packing count showing how they have calculated whatever parking spaces they're requesting. This was reviewed by Natural Resources and found consistent, and reviewed by Transportation. Transportation found them inconsistent with code, and Transportation's comments and memo has been provided in the staff report. Right of Way found them consistent with no comments. Urban Design found them inconsistent, and the staff memo was also included in the staff report with comments regarding the architectural finishes, outdoor lighting, sidewalks, landscape buffering, and parking. We have received no letters of objection or support for this variance request. The applicant has provided pictures showing the subject property, an aerial showing the existing building, and in yellow, that's the proposed addition. The existing parking is in the picture to the right of your screen. And more pictures showing the existing conditions. In the determination of the variance request before you, the board shall consider section 27-80, the criteria for the approval of a variance request. If you have any questions, I will be available to answer.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant present? The applicant or its agent? Okay, come on up, state your names, your address, and confirm that you've been sworn, please.
Bob St. Louis, 19478 Paddock View Drive, and yes, I've been sworn in.
Great.
My name's Jim Johnson, 2886 Jaylene Road, Northport, Florida, and I've been sworn in.
Terrific. All right, you have 10 minutes, if you would please explain to us your hardships, the reason why you need to reduce the parking, as said.
So the church is going to expand, and we're going to put in a two-story building alongside, as you saw in the picture in the yellow. And the upstairs of that is going to be for the children and for the Bible studies and for classrooms. And then below is going to be the gathering place, if you will. In order to put that in there so that all of these children can have this place to go, they need to have that size of the building. And in order to do that, we've got the parking lot problem. We're about 16, the area of 16 spaces shy of being able to put that in, add to the code. So we're requesting to have the variance so that we can get down to 20. We can conceivably put the 20 spaces in there. We feel that with what the church has provided for the community for the 24 years that it's been in business, or been in operation, that it would be beneficial for the community to, it would benefit the community, and without being able to put that structure in there, we feel it would hurt the community. the overflow, if, the church is open for 2 hours, am I
Yes.
correct? 2 hours on a Sunday. And the overflow parking would be, the church is in conversations with the neighbors of some of the businesses there, and sharing some of that overflow, as well as they're gonna be carpooling, and they're planning on purchasing a bus to help that as well. So, and we feel like that for the 2 hours that the church is open, that the 16 spaces might be, we might get the variance to be waived.
Yeah, I would just add that our church has been in the community for more than 20 years. And we serve the community in several different ways. We have a food ministry. We provide educational services, after-school services, and so on and so forth. And so we used to meet in a different building on 40th, close to Busch Garden. We recently we bought this property 4 years ago, and we would like to continue with what we're here for, which is, besides, serving the gospel, is serve the community. But we understand that there's an issue with the parking space, and we tend to make up for that with carpooling and buses and things like that. So I just wanted to add that.
All right, you still have time? Is there anything else you'd like to share with us this evening, or should we open it up for discussion from others in the audience?
Okay, that's it, thank you.
That's it? Okay. All right, well then, is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this petition? Seeing none, is there anyone who has questions for the petitioners? Mr. Pastore.
Are you guys using this building now for Sunday service, or are you still in your old building?
We're using it now for Sunday services. Yeah.
How is the parking realistically on those Sundays today?
It works fine.
Okay.
We have enough parking for the members we have.
Okay, and then you're essentially, it looks like you're almost tripling the square footage of the building with this addition, although one floor is for children who won't have their own cars. So maybe doubling the size of the footprint for a regular parishioner usage? Would you say that's close?
Well, I mean, the additional space we are adding, we're still gonna use the sanctuary for our service. And the additional space will be just, it's not like we're gonna have people in both spaces. So our services are still gonna be held in the sanctuary, which is the downstairs space. The additional space will be used for Sunday school and things like that, so.
I mean, the downstairs space, though, is doubling the footprint, right, from what it is today? That's what it looked like on the plan?
It might add 35%.
Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Sure. Actually, my question's for Mr. Scott.
There's someone coming from the department to answer
Oh.
questions.
Jonathan Scott, Transportation Planning. I've been sworn.
How you doing? Looking at the site plan and some of your comments, it looks like possibly the variance down to 16 spaces might not even be quite enough, because there are no credit for bicycle spaces. So they actually only have 12 spaces on their current site plan. That's kind of what I'm seeing.
Yeah, the churches are typically, we support, parking waivers. We had objected in this case, but they provide a good justification, I felt. Like he said, it's just usually 1 day a week type of thing. And the number of spaces is actually based on the number of seats for churches in the main sanctuary. And usually they don't have parking problems. So the justification they provided, I felt was adequate.
Okay, and if we approve the variance, it goes with the property in perpetuity.
Correct, for that use.
So if the use of this building changed, only for the use, so it has to stay a religious use, okay. All right, I think that answers my questions.
Sure.
Before you go, so the numbers that you've calculated include the upgrade, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so despite the expansion, the numbers with some of the justifications that you've received, you feel are adequate?
That is correct.
Okay.
But before you do walk off, the request is from 36 to 16. For this variance to hold with the site plan, it would be to be edited from 36 to 12, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Is that possible?
We can't grant 12, we can't grant more
Well,
than
the
what's
site,
been
the site
requested.
plan that we are provided only has 12.
What was
parking
noticed?
spaces. 16.
We can't grant 12, we can only grant 16.
Well, then I think we have an issue.
Well, we can either grant the 16, or they can come back at another time.
Can I also ask a question to Jonathan? On
Well-
our,
Sorry, they do have 16. I guess I was making comments on the front spaces, but there are 16, so if they noticed for that, that is the number.
Well, we can grant 16 if that is the board's desire, but we can't grant. So that's fine, that's fine.
Correct, okay, yeah,
And
thanks for that
the ones
clarification.
up front that you're referring to along Osborne
Mhm.
are noted to not have enough of a turnaround. Is that an issue? No there's not enough backup space. They're required 24 feet of backup space, and it's short. It's only got 18.
That was something I did comment on, just looking at that, recalled. I think that's why I had made that point there. I guess that's something we'll have to work with them on, in permitting on that part of it. I got it right here, thanks. That's something we'll have to work with them on permitting to see if we can help them.
Okay, so if we move forward and, you know, in the event that it does get approved at 16, then they can continue on the path and hopefully work all the rest of that out with you guys.
That's correct.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Yep.
Go ahead and ask your questions.
okay, sorry, Jonathan, I have one more. Or maybe a couple. So on our, report here, it says 36 spaces are needed, but in your letter, it says 48 are needed. So, on the memorandum,
Yeah, that's why I
February
asked the question.
10th.
That was a typo, sorry about that.
It was? Okay.
Well, actually, let me see, 159 seats. How many seats are there in the main sanctuary?
How many seats on the sanctuary?
Right, it says that, so there's a memo here that was by, was that Jonathan's memo?
Currently, we have
It says 159 seats times .03
maybe
per
159,
seat.
will be after the expansion, but right now we don't have 159, it's less than 100.
So are you going to increase the main seats in the sanctuary by this addition?
I believe so. I mean,
Okay.
that's what is it? You wanna come up with that?
Is that correct?
Yes, 159 seats. Ils essaient de faire ça. Il y a 159 sièges en télévision. 159 sièges. Combien? He's saying 150.
150, about 150.
150 seats.
Did they only notice for 36?
They noticed
From,
from 36 to 16 is what
One-
they noticed for.
150 will be one seat for the one hundred one side
that sounds good.
about one few
Kamaria Pettis-Mackle from the City Attorney's Office. If I may, if we could pass this case, just to get clarification from the applicant regarding what's requested and what was noticed right now.
You're asking for a continuance.
Well, I just want a quick verification.
So you just want to pause and move forward with a different case?
Yes.
And come back to this one?
Correct. Yes.
We okay with doing that?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, then let's go ahead and set this one aside and move on to 2251, and we'll come back to 2236 as soon as that issue is resolved.
The next case before the board is VRB 2251. This is addressed at 3133 West Euclid Avenue. The property owner is Mac Chapman, and this is zoned RS60 residential single family. The variance request this evening is to remove a 34-inch live oak for the construction of a single family residence. The code section in reference is section 27-284.2.5 that has the stipulations for the removal of a grand tree. This is an aerial showing the subject property. It's an interior lot in the South Tampa Planning District. And this is the proposed site plan that was provided by the applicant, showing the proposed construction or proposed new single-family dwelling. And we're seeing those the tree that is being requested for removal. They have provided two alternate site plans. This is the alternate site plan 1, where they moved that proposed building to the rear of the property. And here they've moved it eastward of the property. They have provided pictures showing the existing conditions of the tree. They're looking to remove the tree that's directly in front of the existing home. And for the picture showing the condition of those trees. This was reviewed by Natural Resources and found inconsistent with technical code and standards. Their memo is attached in the staff report. Right-of-way had no comments and found them consistent. Transportation found them consistent and had no comments as well. We have received no letters of support or objection for this variance request. And in the determination of the variance request before the board, you shall consider section 27-284.2.5, which has the criteria for the approval or the denial of grand tree removal. If you have any questions, Steve and I will be available for questions.
All right, if the applicant would please come forward, state your name, your address, confirm that you've been sworn, and then explain to us the reasoning behind the request.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Coyle. I am the agent for the applicant, Mark Chapman. I'm located at 815 East Palm Avenue. I just wanted to introduce...
I have been sworn.
And I have been sworn. I wanted to introduce Mr. Chapman to give you just a primer on the request, why they're doing what they're doing, and then I'll come back in and go through the technical standards.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Mark Chapman. I am the resident at 3133 West Euclid Avenue in Tampa. I've been sworn in, and I'm here tonight to present the hardship case for removing one of these trees. I've been a resident on this property for 20 years, and I can tell you, cars drive very fast on Euclid Avenue. It's particularly dangerous, in the early morning rush hour and in the evening. And our family, we're planning on building this house, and we feel we need to turn around driveway for the safety of the future younger drivers. We have a 15-year-old that's going to be driving by himself in about 6 months, an 11-year-old in about 5 years, and an 8-year-old in about 8 years. And I do feel, as an adult and living there for a while, I can kind of gauge when I'm pulling out on the Euclid, but the younger driver just doesn't have that skill and experience yet. And I think there is truly a safety concern there. In addition, from a functionality standpoint, there's you really can't park on Euclid. So I think having the extra space in the driveway will be helpful. In the last 5 years, there's been 2 major accidents, just parked cars on Euclid, where a driver has just been not paying attention and has just rammed into a parked car. So we'd like to have the larger driveway for that functionality as well. And we don't approach this lightly. I know it's a big ask to remove a tree, And that's why we've submitted 3 different site plans. You know, we've paid the builder to develop those to show that we're trying to do this in good faith, and really feel it's, you know, it would be extremely pivotal to remove one of these trees for the safety of our young drivers and our family. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Again, my name is Catherine Coyle. I am going to go through a quick splash of photos and then through the hardship criteria and the site plans, and specifically the 2 alternatives that were proposed, as well as the staff comments to address those. These photos were submitted. Jane did show a few of them. Okay, I think we see. If you know this particular area, I am actually starting from the west and moving back to the east. This is actually a through condition. This is Waverly Circle, right off of Euclid. Euclid is classified as a collector roadway, so it does have a double line down the center. There really shouldn't be parking along it. It is fairly high speed. It is marked as 30 miles per hour, which is why Mr. Chapman mentioned that there have been accidents. This condition is not a stop condition westbound, so this traffic does come through and sweep through on Waverly Circle. The house is right here, behind this adjacent yard right here. As I move to the east, down Waverly Circle, now you're looking down Euclid, this is the home right here. And you can see there is some vegetation, which is not theirs, it's actually the neighbors. Their driveway actually pops out from that vegetation. This is another angle where you can just start to see the driveway and the trees. This is their vehicle here, and that is the driveway on the left side, the west side of the property, and you can see both trees, and you can start to see the house. This is a straight-on shot of the house. You can actually see the driveway and how it actually encroaches into that protective radius of the existing tree currently. And the canopy, you can start to see some damage, and I do have some pictures that blown up with that, because the canopy does hang low over the street in this particular section. This tree is lifted higher, so there's no damage to those limbs. Both trees, though, are in very close proximity to the existing house. This is the shot looking back. You can see that tree here and that canopy there, how it does hang over. You can even see just by the discoloration that it has deader limbs. There's not as much foliage. And this is that through condition, and they're backing out right into it. There is no visibility this way with the vegetation from the neighbor's yard as well. You can see how close it is to the house. And now I'm actually on the sidewalk, so you can see the close proximity of that tree. This is looking back east. And then we did have a private arborist, and this is in the record as well. He is a self-certifying private arborist, Casey Keefe. He did an evaluation as well and rated both trees, and luckily, the city arborist, Mr. Eister, also rated the trees the exact same condition. The one on the left, which is marked as tree 1 in Casey's report, the one here, which is next to the current driveway, that is a C7, which is 2 points away from an actual to be deemed hazardous. C by the city's the C condition by the city's evaluation report actually is deemed a major problem. And when you go through the structural components of the tree, the root system is rated as a C, which is a major problem. Limb and branch structure is a C, which is a major problem. And then the twigs, which is the new growth, is also represented as a C. The size of the defect shown in the evaluation, most likely failure was 6 inches to 18 inches in diameter. And as I go through these photos that get closer to the tree, you'll see that some of those, see how close the trees are to the house? this is the tree that's next to the driveway. You can see how close it is currently.
That's
This-
the tree you're seeking to remove?
This is what's shown in option 2. So there's 2 different trees. They're basically equally spaced on the property. I'll show you on the site plan.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm just
Oh, no,
trying to
no, it's
fit,
okay.
while I'm following
It's okay.
your pictures, I just want to make sure I know which tree we're talking about.
Yeah. This one is on the left. In particular, it's the lesser condition tree. It's actually a weaker tree if you compare the 2 ratings. There's girdling roots, which were identified, and you can see in the background how close the driveway is. There's girdling roots essentially on all sides. And this is the blown up picture of that branch structure of that particular tree where you can see damage. If you actually zoom in, you can see it. There's actually open wounds on the tree where the vehicles, the trucks, whatever's going down Euclid is actually hitting that tree and leaving those. Those defects, though, that's where the risk comes if they do fail, either dropping on cars, pedestrians, or in other people's yards. The site plans in question, the original site plan proposal, which Jane showed you, was showing this tree to come out on the right side and this one to be saved. After the evaluation, private arborist and the city arborist verifying it, it actually turns out this tree is actually the lesser condition. It's in worse shape. It's almost hazardous based on the rating. This is actually a B condition, which is a very healthy tree. In our reconfiguration proposals, one of the conditions of the code for reasonable reconfiguration is to look at how you can move the house around on the property without exception or variance. Under section 27-156, table 4-2, footnote 7, it clearly tells you that you actually can reduce percentages of the yards, 40% in the rear yard by right. No exception, no variance. What we did is we shifted the house around and then we flipped it both ways to see how the yard still would be usable for the lanai, but the garage would actually function with the driveway, and whether or not it would work with both trees staying or which tree would work coming out. Saving this tree again on the left side, we pushed the house to 6 feet, which is the allowable condition under that code section, 27-156. You're allowed to reduce 1 foot in the rear. You're allowed to go to a minimum of 12 feet in the rear, 6 feet on the side, 12 feet in the rear by right. The issue that we have here is the overhead power lines actually are running in the rear. And there is a transformer right there hanging on this pole right here. And looking at the TECO standards for that separation for the national energy code, by those standards, it's 10.5 and 3.5. So it's at least 14 feet that we'll have to stay away with that 2-story house. So then option 2 actually shows you retaining the 15 feet, flipping the house back with a 6-foot side setback here. So we meet the energy standard for TECO, that separation. We reduce as much as we can without exception or variance down to 6 feet on this side. And the tree that actually is in worse condition is the one that's coming out. And then we're saving the healthier tree. And if you recall how close these trees are to the house currently, what we ultimately do is we get the house outside of the true 20-foot protective radius, and we just have the impact of the driveway in the canopy. And the canopy itself is actually pruned, so we're actually saving the larger canopy, which is 100 by 100 diameter, or 100 diameter.
Your time is up. You can
Yep.
wrap up in about 30 seconds.
Okay, I just wanted to address really quickly the city arborist's comments on potentially doing a 24-foot driveway versus 26.67. 24 feet is fine. We can reduce it. That's fine. We're allowed to do up to 27. If we do reduce it to 24, as he said, we wedge it between these 2 trees. I position the house here. I still show where the lanai is, so there's still a yard around it. It's limited. I still have to keep the 15 feet for the electric. Everything in red is where the roots get impacted. Even though they're pavers, those roots will still impact. also by city standards, because it says you're not supposed to change the function or the flow of the house against city technical standards. That's how we're supposed to look at this reasonable reconfiguration. City code also says you can't park on these root zones. So coming out of this garage, whether it's a 2-car wide or 3-car wide, you have to be exact and perfect so that you don't drive over 9 feet, which technically it's supposed to be 10 at least. These people would have to stick to directly in between those lines. And visibility with the trees and everything else, it is unreasonable to actually reconfigure that way. And we do feel that it is better to actually save the healthier tree as found by both arborists as far as condition.
We need to wrap up here.
And I can restate the hardship criteria under rebuttal.
There you go. Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak about this petition? All right, seeing none, is there any questions from the board as to the petition? Nope, all right. Well, now you get 3 minutes for rebuttal.
Thank you. Again, Catherine Coyle, have been sworn. As far as rebuttal, since there's technically not much to rebut, other than the reasonable reconfiguration, which I already showed, just for the record, to make it abundantly clear, based on Exhibit A1, reasonable reconfiguration for tree removal, we did submit this into the record, stating the impact of the protective radius of the trees. The protective radius of both grand trees combined essentially eliminates the ability to access the property and impacts front portion of building. It makes it unsafe visibility-wise and function-wise, and gives a very narrow path, and essentially will cause driving over the root zones, which is also against city code. We are impacted. What's unique about this property is we are impacted by the electrical line separation in the rear. We are fronted by a collector roadway, which is a higher speed with that through condition immediately on the arc to Waverly. So we do need a wider space to actually park and maneuver in a safe way. One additional thing that Mr. Chapman didn't mention is this house does have to be torn down. There is a sinkhole on the property as well, which does have to be remediated. If you actually go through some of these photos and look really closely, the house is wet. You can actually see that it's wet and there's structural issues. So there will have to be remediation of the ground as well, which will have some impacts to the soils, hopefully mostly on the left side. As far as the unique and practical difficulties of this particular property, on this section of Euclid between McDill and the Crosstown, this is one of 2 properties that have 2 large or grand trees in the front yard. This is the only one that has them literally positioned at even intervals that preclude a circular drive, that would force a narrow, weird drive in the middle with visibility issues. The other house that has the 2 trees are on the side. There are 5 or 6 circular drives and many drives that actually have turnaround areas because Euclid is such a high speed, high volume roadway. I think that's all I have to say, and I'm available for any questions.
Great, thank you. All right. With that, we'll close public hearing and open it up for a motion from the board.
I move that the variance request for case VRB 2251 for property located at 3133 West Euclid Avenue be granted as depicted on the site plan and presented at the public hearing for removal of a grand tree based upon the petitioner meeting the burden of proof with regard to the 6 factors for determining tree removal as set forth in section 27-284-25F4 of the city code for granting tree removal. Specifically, that the evidence provided in the record showed that the petitioners provided several site plans as already using their code allowed reduction in setbacks when preserving a tree, showed the condition of the trees on the site and the necessity for safer access to and from the property off of Euclid.
All right, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Murphy. All those, is there a need for discussion on this motion? Anyone? Oh. Okay. All those, let's take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion passes 3-2. Move on. Do you want to go back now to 2236?
Yes, and just for the record, Kamaria Pettis-Mackle, that public hearing was not closed. We've got some additional information from staff regarding the request, and we're ready to proceed with that.
Okay.
Jonathan Scott, Transportation Planning. The applicant and I, we've got together, the number of parking reduction from 36 to 16 is the correct number. So we established that, and they're gonna make some changes in permitting, you know, to get everything correct on there. But that is the correct number they need for the variance, and that was noticed correctly and everything, so they should be fine to proceed.
Great. Okay. So, where were we in terms of the?
We were asking questions of the, I'm sorry, I'm breaking my. Kamaria Pettis-Mackle from the City Attorney's Office. You were at the phase of asking questions of the applicant.
Yes.
There was already the determination that there was no public comment. So if you want to continue asking questions.
Okay. We got the answer to the question that it was noticed correctly and that 16 spaces is the right amount. Does anyone else have any questions at this time? Go ahead.
I had a question with the site plan with Jonathan's remarks on them. So if those four, so let me get my drawings up, off of Osborne need to be taken out, so now we've reduced it. So there 16 are not able to be placed on this site anymore. Is that only?
Jonathan Scott, Transportation Planning. Those are changes that they can make in permitting to fix that. They can fix those spaces to make them work. So we're gonna go ahead and have them count those four.
Okay.
Just need to make a couple little tweaks.
Okay, great. I have a question for the church. You had mentioned that there were nearby stores that were offering up their lots for you to park at. Do you have that agreement or anything? I just feel like there's gonna be a lot of parking on, and this is a fairly neighborhood-oriented, you know, housing street. How exactly have you worked that into your plans?
Well, I believe.
Can you state your name for the record?
Well, my name is Bob St. Louis, and I have sworn in. There's a vacant lot in the vicinity of the property, and we've made several attempts to reach them. We have not been able to get a hold of somebody yet.
Okay.
I have a question for the church. You had said something about doing after-school events, so that would be actually more than just one time during the week. Is that something that you are looking forward to be doing in the future, or is that something that you currently hold now?
That'll be in the future.
Okay, and do you have any support from any of the local neighbors to support you in having the streets and their property blocked by parking?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Madud, has there been any opposition at all lodged with the city?
Jane Martin, no.
Okay. And the purpose of the notice period is to allow people to do that, so we didn't hear any of that, so we must assume that the neighbors are not opposing.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant or for staff? All right, seeing none, you have 3 minutes for rebuttal should you need it. Address anything that was raised during questions or just to recap anything that you want to talk about.
I just like the overflow parking that I believe you're concerned with is, As again, they're in the process of locating a bus, and they're gonna be carpooling. I don't, the church is only gonna be operating for about 2 hours, you know, under the extreme condition that it could possibly have. So that's about all I have.
Okay, with that, we'll close the public hearing and open it up for a motion from the board. Mr. Pastor?
I move that variance request for case VRB 2236 for the property located at 3602 East Osborne Avenue be granted as depicted on the site plan and presented at the public hearing for reduction in required parking spaces from 36 to 16 spaces based upon the applicant presenting competent substantial evidence in the record in this public hearing of a necessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 2780 of the city code, specifically that they're looking to expand church that serves the community, and most importantly, that Mr. Scott from Transportation is in agreement with their justifications for the way that they will handle parking. And the property only has its peak use for 2 hours on a non-weekday, and there was no opposition from any surrounding neighbors.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion, a second by Ms. Johnson. All right, is there a need for discussion? Seeing none, let's take a vote. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? All right, your motion passes. Have a great evening.
Thank you very much.
All right, Jane Amati Development Coordination. The next case before the board is VRB 22-52. This is addressed at 316 West Dewey Street. The property owner is Enrique Quevedo. And the variance request is to reduce the front yard setback from 20 to 15 feet, the side yard setbacks from 7 to 3 feet, and the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 18 feet and 8 inches. And this is for the construction of a new single-family residence. This is zoned RS50, so the code section reference is section 27156 that has the setbacks for the RS50 district as 20 feet for the front, 20 feet for the rear, and 7 feet for the side. This is this aerial showing the subject property. It is an interior lot in the Central Tampa Planning District. This is a survey showing what is currently existing on the property. And this is what is being proposed. You have new plans that show that the patio to the rear of the property has been removed from the plans. And the applicant has provided elevation showing that proposed construction. This was reviewed by Natural Resources and found inconsistent. Transportation found them consistent with no comments. And right-of-way found them inconsistent with comments that they show an easement that is reserved over the vacated alley per the ordinance, and the ordinance was attached in the staff report. And these are pictures of the existing structure that the applicant has provided. We received no letters of support or objection from the neighbors or from the community. Natural Resources memories attached, and the ordinance for the vacated alley was attached to the staff reports as well. In the determination of this variance request before the board, you shall consider section 27-80, the criteria for the approval or denial of a variance request. If you have any questions, staff will be available in hand.
Do you know the size of the lot? I don't see it on the.
It is 70 by 102.
Okay.
Okay, is the applicant here? Applicant's agent? Come on up.
Good
State your
evening,
name, your address.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Todd Pressman, 202nd Avenue South, number 451 in St. Petersburg, Florida. I'm here with Enrique.
You've been sworn, Mr. Pressman.
Yes, I have, and we're ready to move ahead. As indicated by the staff, there are two variances requested. One is a front setback from 20 feet to 15 feet, and a side setback from 20 feet to 18 feet. If I could go to the overhead, please, excuse me, and if we could stay on that, please. First of all, if we could pull up the camera, please. Thank you. Oh, you switch here. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So one correction, this is not a brand-new home. This will be a renovation and additions to the home, which will be quite an improvement for the site. And as you saw some photos, this is the existing home, and Enrique's planning to do a very nice improvement. You saw the elevations, which will be a nice addition to the area. The primary issue here, and this is the good news, Mr. Chairman and board members, rather than the last case you saw seeking to remove a tree, the purpose of this variance is to make sure that the very nice tree that's on the property, as you see here, remains undisturbed and not imposed upon. And we did have Mr. Jeff Grubb, who is a certified arborist, look at the tree. We'll hand a copy of the letter. How do you want the copy of the letter handed to you, sir? Who indicates to you that preserving the 42.35 dBH laurel oak, the tree has a 31-foot drip line to the west, 32-foot drip line to the east. It goes into a lot of details, but the proposed construction is going to disturb, in order to not disturb the tree and the roots. He recommends that at least a minimum 15 foot from the base of the tree would be required. So that's what we are proposing. And when you look at the site, what that does for the variance, this being Dewey Street here, the tree in the front yard, it puts pressure on the lot, particularly in regard, again, to not a completely new residential home, but a renovated and added home. Pressure to stay away from the front of the lot. So the result of that is the side setback that you've been told is part of the action here. And we went ahead and touched base with the property owner on that side. Enrique spoke with him, and we have a letter from him in the record here for you. His letter of support to the Honorable Variance Review Board of Tampa. As the east abutting property owner, this letter is signed as support for the variance requested above, that he would support the 3-foot proposed side setback. So we are trying to be as respectful and not impacting to the very beautiful tree on the front, which is a nice addition to the lot. And that pushes improvements more towards the rear. And we seek to make that up on the side setback, which the property owner on that side of the lot is fully in support of. With that, Enrique, did you have any comments you wanted to make?
No, that's about it.
So with that, we're happy to answer the questions that you might have.
Okay, if that completes your presentation,
Yes, sir.
we will look to the audience. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak about this petition this evening? Seeing none, now we will open it up for questions from the board. Mr. Pastor?
So so you're presenting that the trees in the front yard and that these variances are to support the protection of that tree.
That's the feature that we're working around, yes. There is a second feature, if I may.
And that you're proposing to intrude 5 feet further in the front yard where the tree is.
Well, what we're proposing is to be as far away from the tree as possible,
But 5 feet closer to
which
it.
is 15 feet. Front setback is required to be 20, we're seeking 15 feet.
Right, so if no tree at all existed, the front setback would be 20.
Correct.
The tree does exist, the front setback is still 20. You're asking for a reduction to 15, which is closer to the tree, yes?
Correct. And that's why we had the arborist look at it, to be sure that that would be non-impacting to the tree.
Right, but the argument that you're doing it for the tree, I mean, cannot be true, because you're getting closer to the tree. If that tree didn't exist at all, you're still asking for 5 feet.
Well, what we're seeking to do is make the lot work as best as possible with the tree. So we've taken an added step to address the tree, so we understand where it is best to place the home and be respectful and not impacting to the tree. So we do have that answer by a certified arborist at 15 feet.
Yeah.
And tied into an existing home that's
Yeah.
gonna remain in the same footprint to work out improvements in addition to the home. The pressure is then pushed, or we're seeking to expand into the side to make up for that difference. Owner on the east side is acceptable and supportive of the variance.
Okay, so we're RS 50, and we've got a 70 by 102 lot, which means this is significantly larger than a typical RS 50 lot, correct? By about 20 feet wider.
That sounds correct, but
Okay, so then looking at the hardship criteria, the question is, for this property, 70 by 102 feet, larger than a typical 50 by 100 foot lot, what dictates the need for encroachment upon the setbacks? It's already 20 feet wider than a regular lot, so the trees in the front yard, so I don't see, even though you've said it several times, I don't see how that impacts the side setback at all. And the front, we're trying to encroach further on, even though the lot's 2 feet longer than a normal lot. So what is the hardship?
well, the hardship, sir, is that we have an existing home and its footprint that we have to work around.
Yes?
It's not we're not scraping the site and putting a brand-new home in that we can move and manipulate in any manner. So our concern was how to best fit an existing home that's going to be improved with certain constraints because of its existing nature, and to fit that in to a spot that is most respectful to the tree and respectful to the neighbor who is in support. So there's a number of constraints in terms of existing structure and natural features, seeking to provide a nice improvement to a single-family residential home.
Okay.
I will add one other point, if I may, in regard to front setbacks.
Is it an answer to the question? Because you'll have rebuttal time. So I just want to make sure we get all our questions asked.
I'll be happy to include that in the rebuttal.
Okay, all right. And maybe we'll ask a question that will address the issue that you're about to
Sure.
address. Were there other questions before I ask one? I have it. Go ahead. Okay, so I'm still trying to follow, and I want to get a sense. You gave us this helpful diagram. Could you orient me? Where is the tree in relation to this diagram? Because I see an existing carport. It looked from the photographs like the tree was on the northeast corner of the lot. Is that accurate?
So this is from the property appraiser. The existing home is here.
Right.
You can see the crown of the tree here.
Okay.
And then
So that abutting structure there in the front, that's the existing carport?
this here?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's closed in though. That's gonna be a
That's
bedroom at some
closed in.
point.
Okay. But that is what is diagrammed here as existing carport, is that correct?
It's existing right now. I think the problem that we're having is that I'm trying to put a 2-car garage on the property. the side property that I have left on the lot is too narrow to put the two-car garage there. And then if I go forward, I'll be affecting the tree. So I have to go to the side so that I don't affect the tree. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
It does. I'm just trying to get a sense of where the tree is, because I see you've got a garage on this side, on the northeast side.
I drew in the tree on the survey, kind of to give you an idea. So that may,
I'll put it in the same orientation. So this is the aerial from the property appraiser. You see the
Okay.
crown of the tree, and then Enrique has indicated the trunk of the tree on the plan that you see.
Okay, so the driveway is gonna go where as associated with that tree?
Show them here.
what's that?
Show them where the driveway is going.
No, the driveway would be right on this, all the way towards the fence over here.
Okay. All right. And so is the front, where the existing carport is?
Yes, sir.
That orients it to the 15 feet? Is that the basis for asking for the 15 feet?
Actually, both. The master bedroom that's proposed and the garage will be even.
Right, but Mr. Pressman mentioned existing structure
Correct.
orienting around the existing structure.
Right.
So I'm just trying to follow that.
Sure.
What is listed as, I guess the existing carport is within that's what you have diagrammed.
Correct.
here. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
So what we see on this photograph here, that existing carport or whatever exists there today,
Sure.
is that at 15 feet or is that at 20 feet?
That is at 20, I believe, or somewhere near
It
there.
would meet today, it's an existing structure, it'd meet
Yep.
20-foot setback.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then now I'm trying to understand what you said, Mr. Pressman, about orienting with the existing structure. Why not keep it at the existing 20-foot setback? Why move it forward?
Do you want to walk them through this plan?
Yeah, I think the bigger issue here is that we're trying to do, is this working? Yeah, there isn't room to, I guess, put the two-car garage on this side and put it in the remaining
Well,
lot right here.
You have a 3-car garage there. do you
Well,
not?
it's side by side is two, so it's a kind of like a tandem on one side.
Okay,
Okay, so there's not enough space to cram it in that side lot. And then for aesthetics, we just wanted this right here to be even with the other side. Otherwise, if we tried to put this on further this way, then it would obstruct, it would impact the tree. Do you see what I'm saying?
What exists there today, it's that little box with the existing carport?
This right here.
Yes, sir.
Yes, that's an existing carport.
Okay.
Well, it's closed in, but.
I understand.
It's highlighted.
It's enclosed, but it exists as it is today. I'm sorry, I'm not following you. When you say, if you put your garage on the other side, it would impact the tree, but the tree is more to the northeast side of the property anyway. I'm not following you.
No, I'm not following you.
So the area in the highlights
Yes, sir.
are improvements or additions to the home.
Yes, sir.
So the idea or the layout was to provide square footage for the needs of the home, like every homeowner has, in terms of livable space, and how that's going to best fit on the lot with constraint towards the front of the lot that we've talked about, and seeking to, in a sense, take that pressure to the side setback rather than continually trying to move to the front, which is going to have an impact on the tree.
But you
So-
are moving to the front.
So these areas are the improvement, this area is the improvement. Those are further improvements of the home and then also to the rear.
All right, I follow you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Johnson, did you have a question? Okay. Yes, sir.
Got a question for Mr. Ister, all the way in the back.
Stephen Ister, Natural Resources, and I have been sworn in.
Okay, thank you. So the tree appears to be in the middle of the site, slightly to the east of the lot, which is where the two-car driveway is proposed. It appears that the driveway will most certainly drive over top of the root radius.
It would.
What is the city's take on driving over root radius?
So a tree this size is a grand tree. It's over 32 inches. They have a 20-foot protective radius. And along with it being a grand tree, like you guys heard in the previous cases, they're entitled to those reductions in setbacks to accommodate. So I know right now it says the rear setback is 18. They could actually do the 40% to try to accommodate that without pushing the house forward. And then same with the sides. Instead of 7, they could go to 6 to try to accommodate the space.
By right.
By right. And with no variances. But to me, if you flip the house, you're basically tearing up the old driveway, which any impacts would have been made already.
Where's the current driveway?
The current driveway, I believe, is on the left side of the house with the carport.
Oh, to the carport. So it's on the west.
So the current driveway.
So you're suggesting that moving the driveway from west to east would cause more impact on that tree?
Yeah, because this exists. See, is it out now? So the existing driveway right here has already, there's no impacts to the tree. So if they came in with the 1-car driveway and expanded it out to accommodate the 2-car garage, the impacts to the tree would be minimal.
But what they're proposing is the other side. So what is the impact to the tree with a new driveway on that east side?
So you would be within probably 6 feet to that tree, and you're regrading everything to accommodate the driveway and the transition to the new home. So.
Is that allowed? Are they allowed to do that?
Typically, no. What we would do is, like, say if this came in as a new construction, and they're like, oh, we have a driveway here with a grand tree, and we have nothing over here, we'd be like, flip your plan.
Yeah.
Put the driveway on the other side with the garage.
Are they meeting green space?
With their plan, I asked for the calculations. I did not receive those.
Is
With
that
the
why you
removal.
were- Is that why you were objecting to?
Yeah, and with the removal of the back lanai, that probably does increase their green space. But they have to have 25%. And with the reductions in all setbacks, it's probably still pretty close.
I did send the green space in, by the way. I think Jane may have it.
So other than
Do you have the green space?
the trees not being shown on the plan at all for us, we're just assuming it's there.
Yeah,
And
so
then,
the tree in the front was shown on the plan. As required by code, they have to show everything within 20 feet.
yeah, okay.
So the tree in the rear and things like that.
Okay, and then
Okay.
green space wasn't calculated, and then there was something else in your table, 1 tree per 2,000 square foot of parcel. Is
Yeah,
that
and
something that is a contribution, but because they can't replace the tree on site? because
If they keep
maxed
this,
it out?
the laurel in question, they will meet that requirement.
Okay.
So, but that's kind of why I objected.
Okay.
Right.
All right, any other questions for the petitioner or staff? All right, seeing none, petitioner, Mr. Pressman, and Mr. Quevedo, you have 3 minutes for rebuttal.
I heard the arborist quite clear. The only other item I would make aware of is, as we're asking for the front setback, the area does have very varied front setbacks. So you can see just in this area, I've noted them as the white bars. So there is not consistency in the front setbacks of the homes in this area. Even a wider view shows that even more disparity. So a difference of front setback in terms of visually on the street is not going to be anything different than what you'll see on the street as of today. May I speak with Enrique for just 30 seconds, sir?
Sure, you have 2 minutes left.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do you have anything else, Enrique, you want to say?
I mean, if there was a way I could redesign it to make it, you know, different, I would.
Yeah.
All right, so,
We appreciate your consideration.
okay,
Thank
great.
you, sir.
Thank you, and we appreciate it. And I will now close the public hearing and open it up for a motion from the board. Ms. Johnson?
I'll do a motion. This is 52, right? So I move that the variance request for case VRB 22-52 for the property located at 3316 West Dewey Street for a front setback from 20 to 15 feet, a side setback from 7 to 3, and a rear setback from 20 feet to 18 feet 8 inches, be denied due to the failure of the petitioner to meet the burden of proof to provide competent and substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria as set forth in section 2780 of the city code. Specifically that I believe this is a self-created hardship due to new construction, and there was inconsistencies found by natural resources and transportation.
Okay, we have a motion to deny. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to deny and a second by Mr. Pastor. All those in favor of the motion to deny, say aye. All those opposed? All right, the petition is denied 4-1. You have 10 days to appeal should you need it. Thank you.
Correct. The next case before the board is VRB 2253. This is addressed at 3416 West Fair Oaks Avenue. This is zoned RS 60 residential single family. The property owners are Sergio and Jamie Morano. And the variance request is to reduce the side yard setbacks from 5 feet to 0 and the rear yard setback from 5 feet to 0 for a new pool and screen enclosure. The code section in reference is section 27-290.3, where an in-ground swimming pool shall be located 5 feet minimum from the side and the rear lot lines, measured from the water's edge, and screen enclosures have their setbacks at 5 feet for the sides and the rear. This is the subject property. It's an interior lot in the South Tampa Planning District. It is zoned RS50. This is the subject property. It's an existing single-family residence. And the proposed location for the pool is right here in the rear. Oh, okay. The proposed location for the pool is here in the rear. And this is this plan for the proposed pool. We have the pool here, and then we have in the hatch the enclosure, the proposed enclosure that covers not just the pool but also the backyard area. This is a plan showing what that green space calculation is on this property. This was reviewed by Natural Resources and found consistent with conditions, and transportation review was not required. Right-of-way reviewed and found them consistent with comments that they had a released easement per instrument number 20214511700, and that release of easement was included in the staff report. We received no letters of objection. We do have one letter of support that was also included in the staff report. And pictures that the applicant has provided of the home showing existing conditions. So we have the front of the property, and here on the extreme left, we have a picture of the rear yard where the proposed pool is gonna go. And more pictures showing that rear yard condition where they're proposing that pool, and the enclosure showing the fence as it exists currently. In the determination of this variance request, the board shall consider section 27-80, the criteria for the approval or denial of a variance request, and I'll be available on hand if you have any further questions.
Okay, petitioners, state your name, your address, and confirm that you've been sworn, and then you'll have 10 minutes.
Hi, yes, Jamie Morano. Yes, I've been sworn in, 3416 West Fair Oaks. Thank you for taking the time this evening.
My name is Sergio Ray, property owners, 3416 West Fair Oaks Avenue. I've also been sworn in. Thank you.
Terrific.
We're married. We have different last names because I'm in medicine, so I keep my main name, but we're married. Okay. And thank you everybody's help, by the way. So it was really helpful to get organized in terms of this. So thank you. I can tell you why we want this. So thank you for your evaluation and your comments. We're really excited to hopefully have a lifelong dream of getting a pool. We have one 6-year-old, and when we looked at the property, we noticed there'd be room for a pool, but we wanted to make sure, for safety reasons, for anyone using the pool, that there'd be enough room, clearly, to use the pool, and not to have such a narrow pool. My husband was successful in getting easement revoked. There used to be power lines in the backyard, which had a 5-foot, kind of like a Tico, I think, margin, and we were able to get that. If you wanted to say a few words about that.
Yes, I could mention a little bit about this. So we have we used to have a 5-foot easement not only on our side of the property, but also on the property adjacent to us. We requested a removal for it because those power lines have been removed before our property was built, and there was no longer a need for it. So we went through the easement process, and we were successful in getting the removal. Ideally, we would like to take advantage of that space. By the way, our neighbors still have that easement, so they still have the requirement to meet those 5 feet, even though they haven't. They could go through the same process we have gone through, but they have not.
We got it,
so
okay.
Yes, the important aspect of it is they are not leveraging those 5 feet from their sides of the property, so it's not affecting them in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
So in requesting this this additional space for the build of the pool, we would not really be affecting our neighbors.
The letter of support came from the neighbor directly in back of us, so that rear easement, which I believe is on the south side, that would be the closest. So that he supports it. He supports the removal of that small tree, which is not a grand tree. So that's good. Also, our neighbors to both sides are supportive as well. And we're going to have adequate drainage and green space, actually more than 25%, so we're able to calculate that in.
25% of green space, yes, correct.
Right, we're actually it's closer to 34% of green space. So we're able to maintain all of that. And,
correct, and for the sake of drainage, to make sure that neighbors are also not affected, around the pool, we plan to have some tiles that will slant toward the pool, so in case if there's water that spills over, it always drains back to
and also
the
stones, so that will help. But also separately, we have the green space, so that should be hopefully fine from those aspects. So we can certainly answer any questions, but essentially we were successful in getting the easements, so we thought, well, it would be really a good idea to maybe use some of that. Otherwise, the pool becomes a little bit narrow, and we wanted to be safe enough for people to use. So in terms of hardship, probably somebody's going to ask about that. What is your hardship? Well, I think safety would be a hardship. We just want to make sure that it's, when you go into the pool, that it's not so narrow for children and for young children. We're obviously going to have it enclosed per code. We're just trying to make sure that we have it, I guess, ample enough.
So, and perhaps the biggest hardship we have is that we have such a narrow lot from the back, right? So we have to, unfortunately, live with those limitations, and this is perhaps the best compromise, to have enough green space, a swimming pool that we can actually use, and at the same time, be as responsible as stewards as we can. Thank you.
Okay, does that conclude your presentation this evening?
Yes.
All right.
Happy to answer your questions.
Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak about this petition? Seeing none. Anyone on the board have any questions for the petitioners? Mr. Pastor?
There's a few issues with zero lot requests. One of which is that regardless of what your neighbors today say, the request rides with the property for the life of the property, which means if you guys leave, other people could build back to those lot lines in the future. And as your neighbors leave and turn over time, then you're encroaching on their property. And so there's that consideration, but also the issue of access, because with zero lot, you don't have a way to get around the property. And so that can be an issue for fire department or any other, city maintenance issues or just practicality, because you're essentially blocking that quadrant of the property from transportation. Pools are not a right, so some properties don't fit them. And I'm not, I'm not saying yours doesn't, because I didn't get a good look at the dimensions of the plans, and it's not really for me to say. But the question I would have to you is, under the premise that I traditionally would not support a zero lot line request, would you be able to build something that wasn't zero lot line on both sides?
Yeah, so I'll be happy to answer some of the questions. So the reason we requested a zero lot is not because we want to extend the pool all the way to the fence line. As a matter of fact, we will have some space, so some walkable space that will be accessible for example, any emergency services if needed. So that's definitely taken into account, and also taken into account because of we don't want any water to spill over. For the other comment you made, practicality and potential use of other neighbors. So on our east side of our property, we have another neighbor that has a swimming pool at around the same area as well. They respect the easement as well, of course, and the setbacks, but they will not be building anything beyond it because they have their swimming pool. In the backyard, we've had a lifelong neighbor that's been there for 20 so years, and he's been very supportive of having this. He has a little bit of a longer, I believe, yard based on his house layout, so he has significantly more amount of space for his yard, and he has been also supportive. There are no other neighbors impacted really beyond those two. There's perhaps the little corner of the other neighbor, but that's significantly beyond that.
So can I just show everyone this? How do you turn this on? I'm sorry. I don't know how to turn it on. Document camera, I thought, but sorry. How do I turn this on? Can I show you? Yes, oh, there it is. Did I try, thank you. So this is what we wanted, my husband was talking about.
Right, so the neighbor that is fully supportive is the one that's right behind us, right here, south of us. So that has the biggest amount of space, and the pool would probably impact, if anything, since it's adjacent to them, it would be impacting him the most. But he's the one that has the most amount of space here in the back based on his layout. To the east of us, there's another swimming pool already built here as well. So there aren't any other really properties or buildings that will be erected near that area at all.
Can I just say one more thing also? Just interestingly, I don't know if you want to go back to .cam again, I'm sorry. The interesting thing about this, and something I learned about Florida, is there has to be space between the screen and the pool. So because my husband and son are very sensitive to mosquitoes, and we're trying to eliminate chemicals for allergic reasons, we're trying to eventually get a screen here. So the pool would go first and the screen would go later. But essentially the pool would go here, but you have to have that space. So just wanted to show you. So essentially, as you know, if you had like a 2 foot, right, then you'd have a screen, then you'd have to have an additional 2 feet, and that would really narrow the pool. So for someone to actually have a screen, you have to really start kind of closer to the property line, which becomes kind of more like a fence more than anything else. But I think the plan is to go with a pool first and then leave the option for a screen, really for health reasons, so we don't have to spray and then people don't get bitten. So that's kind of the reasoning of why we're pushing it. We're hoping to push it to that area. It's because you have to have that buffer, as you know, between the screen and the pool. So the pool wouldn't be at the property line. It would be more the screen would be closer to the property line.
Yeah, the notice that you submitted was for a pool and screen.
Yes, it is.
So that's
the
premise of my question.
Yes.
The water's edge has limitations on how close that can
Right,
get.
exactly.
So that's already dictated, and you're not asking for a variance on that.
No.
So my assumption is that your request for variance is on the screen location, because
Right.
that's the vertical that impacts neighbors, and that's the the
Right.
fence that impacts
Right.
access.
True.
So
Correct.
you're saying that you're not intending to build all the way to zero, that there would be a space. The issue is if we approve zero, you can go build to zero. We can't change that after it leaves here. And we do have the ability, because of the way you notice, to approve less than zero. You know, we have the ability to do that if we agreed on that. So my point is that, and I'm just speaking for me, not for all five, that I won't support a zero. And it sounds like you're not intending to build to zero. Is there a dimension that you are intending to build the screen to that we could discuss, or do you not know that yet?
It's not something we have planned for, but we could entertain it.
So the good news is we have plans, we worked with the pool builder, so we have plans for a zero variance and a not zero variance. There's plans for a 2-foot margin as well. And so we would definitely be open to that. Because that gives us the ability to have that 2 feet.
Right, so the initial design we had made, but this is way back, so was for the 5 feet setback that we originally had. So that's the only previous design that we really
Right,
had.
but then we also have a variation for the 2 feet.
Okay,
Yes.
so.
Which would
Well,
still.
So the variation for this 2
Yes,
feet.
yes,
And the
yes,
2
we
feet
have-
would
we
still
have
require a
variability.
variance.
Right.
It would just
Right,
be.
exactly. But we're
less than.
absolutely open and flexible. We just wanted to make sure that we were able to maximize the space and also protect people from mosquitoes as we could.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions on this one?
I just had a quick question on the pool equipment. Scrolling through, I see the pool equipment on the narrow side of the home.
Right.
Well, I mean, that is also a question for the city. Will that require additional variance or anything like that? It's on the narrow side, so instead of having a setback on the, what would that be, the westerly side of the home?
Right.
On the services side, correct.
Right.
Right.
So this is north.
Right, so I guess you already have air conditioning pads that are over there in the setback?
That's
Correct, we do.
January, so the variance request is for both the pool and the enclosure. So they're going down to zero, but we know that on that side is not zero, so that request is also for the pool as well.
So this request also includes the pool equipment over on the other side of the house?
No, the pool, no, the pool equipment is not included.
Okay.
So the question, which is a fair one, I think, is by placing the pool equipment on the west side of the home, will that also require a variance?
No, on the west side, they would have more than sufficient
Okay.
room on the west side.
They have sufficient, okay.
Right now, they're, I don't know, but they haven't provided.
Has to be 5 feet, right? I mean, they can move the pool equipment wherever they want to move the pool equipment, but might be helpful to tell them if there's going to be an issue.
It's probably important for us to know in case we need to condition this, just to make sure that we're stating that we're not saying anything about the pool equipment, because that's out of the notice, and that's not in our purview.
If I may, I think it's
Because it's
7
on the
feet
site
here.
plan.
So then you have the 2 feet that we have 7 feet here?
Yeah, but.
Oh, sorry.
How
Where?
wide is this? I don't know.
Oh, sure, go ahead. Okay, yeah.
You know,
It's something we can
that-
probably work around, so if necessary, if it comes to it. So we can plan around it, either place it on this side or place it on this side.
Okay.
So it's definitely, if I may, so it's something that we can definitely plan around. So if there's a potential issue for having it on the west side of the property, we can perhaps have it moved to the east side of the property or to the south side of the property.
You just need to know about it in advance, and that's the point of Mr. Murphy raising it, is that, just so you're aware, it might be a problem to put it in that location.
Sure.
Fantastic.
And we wouldn't be able to approve it because it wasn't noticed.
Okay,
So,
thanks.
Thank you.
all right, any other questions for the petitioners? No? All right.
I have one then. Since there weren't any other questions, once we go into motion and board discussion, you guys can't speak anymore, so I wanted to ask now, if we were to entertain a 2 foot instead of a 0 foot, would you be open to that if that's what the board decides, which I'm not saying they will?
Absolutely,
I think
yes.
that's fine, because it sounds like a 1 foot is too small, so, I mean,
We
could
would
do
entertain
two.
it, absolutely.
Yes,
We would
yes.
prefer, of course, a zero lot, but we would entertain it, happily entertained
2 foot, sure.
That's all I have.
Okay, with no more questions, you have 3 minutes to rebut, raise any other issues, recap, anything along those lines.
Okay. No, thank you so much. We do have extra copies if anybody needs to look at them as well. But yeah, no, we would definitely be open for 2 feet. We absolutely understand. And yeah, that would be great. And we could certainly move the pool equipment if that's a problem as well.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, I will close the public hearing and open it up for a motion from the board.
I'll have a motion. I move that the variance request for case VRB 2253 for the property located at 3416 West Fair Oaks Avenue for a reduction of the side yard setback from 5 to 0 and the rear yard setback from 5 to 0 feet be denied due to the failure of the petitioner to meet its burden of proof to provide competent and substantial evidence in the record at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 2780 of the city code. Specifically that, I believe this is a self-created hardship. Having a swimming pool is not a right. Having a swimming pool with an enclosure is not a right. And that I believe a 0 lot line, even a 2-foot lot line prohibits access around the property, thus creating safety issues.
Okay, we have a motion to deny. Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion to deny and a second. Is there discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I have a procedural question for legal. If this vote that's on the floor takes place as an approved, we cannot go back and propose another motion, correct?
That's correct.
So if I wanted to do an alternate, I would need to do that before a denial, or I won't even have the opportunity to do that.
Well, there's
No.
a motion made, there's a
Yes.
second.
You
Now
vote on the motion.
you vote on the
If the
motion.
motion to deny is approved, then it's
It's done.
denied. If the motion to deny fails,
Then you can make a new
Then
motion.
we take a second motion.
Okay.
You can still have a discussion on
I
the
guess my
motion.
point is that, let's say that it's not clear whether or not I was going to make an alternate, and so the denial seems like the only option, yes or no. It's voted on, the denial is approved, I now no longer have the option to make an alternate.
That is correct.
That is correct.
Right. So I still don't have that option because it's on the
Not
floor.
right now, because there's
So we
a-
have
there-
to vote.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. All right, we have a motion to deny and a second. All those.
I might want to make an alternate though if this doesn't pass.
Got it. All those in favor of the denial, say aye. All those opposed, say nay. All right, denial fails. Now you can make an alternate motion.
Okay. I would like to move that variance request for case VRB 2253 for property located at 3416 West Fair Oaks Avenue be granted as, no, I can't say that. Yeah, be granted as depicted on the site plan and presented of the public hearing for reduction in rear yard and side yard setbacks from 5 feet to 2 feet with encroachment for eaves and gutters, based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record at this public hearing of a necessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 2780 of the city code, specifically that they have a smaller rear yard and they vacated an easement to make room for an improvement, and that they are in agreement to provide access around this improvement and have no opposition from neighbors.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Was there a condition on your motion? I didn't hear one.
I didn't think we needed one, but I am happy to entertain a condition.
Okay. The 2 conditions, I guess. One would be that it never be enclosed, although it's a screen enclosure. And then Then 2 would be the issue with pool equipment that is shown on the site plan, but that we don't have the purview to approve.
I'd like to add the following condition: that the addition never be enclosed, and that the pool equipment on the site plan is not part of this variance and will be handled by the city as part of permitting.
Okay. Is there a reason, is there any discussion on the motion as made?
And can you just ask the applicant if they understand the conditions?
Yeah, I thought we did, but let's go ahead and ask, do you understand the conditions?
Understood. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, it's just that it can't be air-conditioned space.
Oh, yeah, oh, sure. Yeah, as long as we can have.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, your motion, your petition passes 3-2. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
The next case before the board is VRB 22-55. This is addressed at 2915 West Harborview Avenue. Property owner is Tower One Homes, and this is zoned RS60 residential single family. The variance request is to reduce the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 3 feet, and the side yard setback from 7 feet to 3 feet. And this is for an accessory structure, a detached 2-story garage. The code section in reference is section 27-290. Accessory structures with a gross floor area larger than 15% of the minimum required lot size must meet principal structure setbacks as referenced in section 27-156. This is a aerial showing the subject property. It is an interior lot in the South Tampa Planning District. And this is a site plan showing that proposed garage structure toward the north of the property. And to the left side of the drawing, you have the proposed floor plans. On the first level, you have the garage. On the second level, you have what is a study, and elevations for that accessory structure. This was reviewed by Natural Resources and found consistent with conditions that at the time of construction, alternative design techniques and tree preservation requirements may be requested, and that they comply with all City of Tampa tree and landscape code at the time of permitting. Transportation found them consistent with conditions as well, with the condition that when they do go to permitting, the driveway will have to comply with Chapter 22-314 that requires residential driveways to meet specific dimension standards. And this was also reviewed by right-of-way and found consistent with no comments. And this is the subject property. Pictures that the applicant has provided showing that area. Staff has received no letters of support or objection from neighbors or the community. And in the determination of this variance request, the board shall consider section 27-280 as the criteria for approving or denying a variance request. And I'll be available if you have any questions.
I have a question.
Sure.
It's a vacant lot?
Yes, this is new construction.
Okay.
I have a question. What about this structure precludes it from being accessory?
It is an accessory structure.
Oh, but it has to meet,
But it's greater, the gross floor area is greater than 15% of the minimum lot size, so they need to comply with principal structure setbacks.
so it's the floor size?
Yes, it's a floor size,
Okay,
but it is an accessory structure.
okay.
Okay, is the applicant here? Come on up, state your name, your address, confirm that you've been sworn, and then you'll have 10 minutes.
Scott Kirchner with Terralon Homes regarding 2915 West Harborview Avenue, and I have been sworn.
Great. 10 minutes to tell us all about the hardships.
I'll try to make it nice and quick. Upon buying the lot, surveying the neighborhood, and I will refer to it as Harborview Ave, as well as the abutting street next to it with the homes back up to Harborview. There are over 50 homes located within there. Only 4 of them have front-facing attached garages. Everything else has a detached product. So if you look at the historical nature of the neighborhood, it's kind of like Hyde Park. Everything was detached. My primary reasoning for doing this is I want to keep to the appeal of the neighborhood. Believe it will make the neighbors happier, and I think it does the neighborhood a service. The reason for the second floor is so, 1, you could get a little more space, and 2, my client could have their in-law suite in the home downstairs and use the second floor accessory space as their home office. In doing this, we've contemplated views of the neighbors. The neighboring property to the east had been approved for a variance and built the very same structure. In considering, we looked at it and said we don't want windows on the neighboring side, except for on the rear. We planned a transom window if we do in fact do a shower in there, but no one would really see out of the transom window to peer at neighbors. Your 2 accessible windows would be to the front of the garage, accessing from the driveway, so that if fire or someone had to access, they'd have direct, easy access to it and not have to work around the building. As stated, over 50 homes within that block. Over 10 of them have detached 2-story garages. I provided pictures of the ones that I could see from the street. As weird as that seems, going by taking pictures of neighbors' homes. Some I couldn't tell because of overgrowth, so I know there's at least 10 that match exactly what we're trying to do here as well. And from a hardship perspective, it's really more of keeping to the tone of the neighborhood, and then secondarily appeasing my client to what they would like to build. That's it.
Great. That concludes your presentation this evening?
Yes, sir.
All right. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak about this petition? Seeing none, are there any questions from the board about the petition from us? Yes.
How much larger is this than the size that would allow you to use accessory? Do you know?
I'm sorry, again?
How many square feet is this bigger than the size that would allow you to use accessory?
If we did the detached structure, the living space above that would be approximately 450 square feet. It's definitely less than 500 square feet of conditioned space. My understanding by code, I could still do that detached garage, but I'd be limited to 15 feet in height. So what the real objective is to go above that 15 to get the second story and add, we'll call it 500 square feet of living space. So the home in total would grow from 4,000 to 4,500. Without doing a detached structure, if I kind of violated the look of the neighborhood and did an attached garage to the front, I could build as big as 5,000, maybe 5,500, and still be within the setback.
Right, I'm just trying to see how close we are to what's tripping this primary setback. You mentioned the height. I didn't hear the height from Ms. Madhu.
And that's my understanding on it, is that an accessory structure can be built 3 feet and 3 feet, as long as it's not over the 15 feet in height. But then for every foot in height, you're coming back in towards your building setback until you're essentially back into it to do
Okay, can I just
the
get
amount of footage that I'm
clarification from Ms. Madhu on this? I want to make sure I understand what we're voting on.
Sure.
Jane Malley, Development Coordination. So for accessory structures, it's 3 feet and 3 feet and 15 feet for the height. But once you go over that gross floor area, you need to meet principal structure setbacks. At that point, the height is no longer an issue because you're meeting the setbacks for the principal structure.
Understood. So do you know how close they are to the floor area?
Right now, the garage is going to be 1,232 square feet.
Both.
That includes both floors?
Both floors, yes.
Right, okay, I got it.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, you have 3 minutes for rebuttal, should you need it.
Yes, sir.
Then I will close the public hearing and open it up for a motion from the board. Do we have a motion from the board? Mr. Murphy?
All right. I move that the variance request for case VRB 22-55 located at 2915 West Harborview Ave, as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing, for a reduction in rear side back from 20 feet to 3 feet and a side setback from 7 feet to 3 feet, be approved based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing of unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 27-80 of the city code. Specifically that this home design on the lot is slightly narrower. It is fitting to the aesthetic of the neighborhood and would not be as an obtrusive of a structure at the front of the street.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I'll add one point, and it is something the applicant said that I think tripped it over for me, and that is that he could build a much bigger home if he wasn't following the aesthetic of the neighborhood. So in that regard, I'm in support of it. Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor, say aye. All those opposed? All right, your petition passes 3-2.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Ms. Madhu, we're on 2256.
Correct. VRB 2256, this is addressed at 321 West Hanlon Street. The property owner is paying for development, and this is in zone SHRS, Seminole Heights Residential Single Family. The variance request is to reduce the front yard setback from 19 to 10 feet, the side yard setback from 7 feet to 3 feet, the rear yard setback from 20 to 10, and they amended the request, so it's to remove just one grand tree as opposed to 2. They're removing the 39-inch grand tree, and this is for the construction of a single-family residence. And the code section in reference is section 27.211.2.1 that has the building placement, form, and layout standards for the Seminole Heights district. The front is determined by the BTL. The sides are 7 and the rear is 20. And also section 27-284.2.5 that has the requirements for the removal of a grand tree. This is an aerial showing the subject property. It is in the Central Tampa Planning District. It's an interior lot, and it's also located in the Seminole Heights district. This is proposed floor plans that have been provided by the applicant showing what is the proposed development for this site, going to 3 levels of construction. Because they are looking to remove a grand tree, they have provided alternative site plans showing reasonable reconfiguration. And this is the first showing those 3 levels and how they would stagger or move the building to accommodate the tree to the east of the property. And this is the alternate site plan 2, also showing how they're looking to accommodate that tree. This was reviewed by Natural Resources and found inconsistent with technical standards and code. And also reviewed by Transportation, found consistent, reviewed by Right of Way and found consistent. Urban Design reviewed and found them inconsistent with the comments that Urban Design does not support the side yard setback reduction to 3 feet. Urban Design would support a side yard setback reduction to 5 feet, which is similar to other residential zoning districts outside of Seminole Heights. And Urban Design has no issues with the front and rear yard reduction request. We received no letters of support. We did receive 5 letters of objection, and I'll pass those letters across to the board momentarily. These are pictures that the applicant has provided showing the subject property and the trees on the lot. Again, showing the trees in question, pictures of existing conditions on the property. In the determination of the variance request before you, the board shall consider section 27-80, which has the criteria for the approval of a variance request, and also section 27-284.2.5 that has the criteria for the removal of the grand tree. And staff will be available if you have any questions.
Okay, Mr. Federica? Applicant, come on up, state your name, your address, confirm that you've been sworn for us, and then looks like you have a lot to talk about. Oh.
And there's also a couple that came in late.
Okay. If there's anyone who hasn't been sworn yet, if you're here, stand up, let's do the swearing in at the same time.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Hi, I'm Logan Payne with Payne Free Development. I'm here with Ricky Patrica with Dark Moss. We purchased this historically plotted lot a few months ago. We know it's historically non-conforming, so we're trying to put together a plan to have enough buildable area to build something that, you know, matches all the other homes on the street. So.
Good evening, board. Ricky Patrica with Dark Moss. I have been sworn. I'll take you back in time real quick just to set up the scenario here. In 1915, this property was platted, the Goldsteins, Hillsborough Heights. In 1924, it was replatted. You can see a slight blue area there. Let's slide it up. And what we're talking about today is lot 11 and 12, which were roughly 55 feet wide in 1924. The applicant submitted, prior to the request, a zoning certification letter that found the lot to be legally non-conforming and subject to, it is able to be built and not necessarily re-split, but the initial plat could be reused as it was platted in 1924. But it's subject to the Seminole Heights design criteria, which yields a footprint about this size. To give you scale, this is 55-foot wide lot by approximately 50 feet deep on the narrow side, and it fronts the Hillsborough River, and then there's this existing structure on the other lot. This is the property line here. This is lot 12 and lot 11 per that 1924 plat. And this is roughly 25 by 25 square feet is what would be allowed to be built without any relief from any code provision that we're requesting today. What we are requesting is this is the shrink wrapping of the setbacks that we're requesting currently. It removes the grand tree on the west, sets the rear setback along a reduced wetland setback line, which we can only request through a design exception, so that only the zoning aspect of that is requested today. 2 3-foot side yard setbacks, and then we're maintaining a setback off of the Grand Oak that's off-site, and we've requested a reduced front yard setback. The lot has been, sorry, one moment. And just for visual comparison, this is a typical RS50 standard minimum lot. And this is kind of the visual comparison of what we're requesting relative to what would normally be buildable. This is a lot, again, on a clean survey, very faint, but you can note here, this is a wetland approval from EPC. A small, the river's large, but there's a small section of wetland that encroaches into the property line there. EPC has approved that delineation, and nothing we're requesting today impacts that small section. Only a design exception for wetland setback is proposed, separate from this request. I'm not going to try to zoom this out because I think I need to keep it here, but we're proposing a ground level that's elevated. The property is currently at elevation 5. The flood zone's at elevation 9, roughly. So it'll be, we're proposing a ground level elevated area with just the garage, and then 2 floors of living space that accommodate the off-site tree on the side and accommodate the reduced wetland setback on the north. So in terms of uniqueness, this is probably the smallest lot in this neighborhood, and it has a diagonal rhombus parallelogram arrangement of development of building envelope. And we're proposing, this is roughly a 1,300 square foot footprint. One of the larger site plans has that number specifically. So we're subject to 2 criteria, potentially 3 hardship criteria. I think Seminole Heights, some of these setback requests can be done through design exception, through the form-based code provision 27-60. I think the decision was made because we are requesting grand tree removal, and we're going to the VRB, that we're bringing kind of the whole package together. But in terms of hardship or practical difficulties being unique, this is a very difficult site to develop, given it's basically half the size and subject to a normal minimum lot standard, and subject to the protective radius of 2 grand trees. We're requesting relief from 1. So we also need to address the reasonable reconfiguration criteria, which staff showed. This is the tree we're requesting. If we preserve that tree, the garage would be lost, a portion of the gallery or the living space and a bedroom would be lost, and then 2 additional bedrooms would be lost, which in my professional opinion impacts the internal flow and function of the structure, making this option unreasonable. And the second option, it's a little less creative, but following the standard, if we shift the building to a 0 side setback, which can't be achieved through a design exception, which is generally my understanding of the request, we still cannot preserve that second tree. So we don't meet the provision that the structure is not adjusted more than allowed by design exception. The tree we are preserving in the front is a C8 live oak that trends to the west in front of the facade. The building was specifically designed to accommodate the limbs that reach out towards the west on this lower level and the upper level, and with only simple structures or footers coming down kind of close to the radius. The tree that we're requesting relief to remove, I apologize, this is washed out, hopefully it looks a little bit better for you in person, is a double live oak. When we do the trunk formula method, it turns out we get it's large enough to be considered grand, But with what we're proposing in our setback, both the roots and the canopy will be impacted by this, and we feel that this tree creates an unreasonable restriction on the proposed plan for a site that's already restricted. So I know that was a lot, and I appreciate your attention through that, and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, well, before we get to questions from the board, let's see if there's anyone in the audience who wishes to speak about this petition. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak about this petition? Come on up. State your name, your address, confirm that you've been sworn, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
I've been sworn. My name is Melissa Taylor. I live at 311 West Hanlon Street. I was the previous owner of the property in question that they're wanting the variances for. I don't know if you have read all the letters that have been emailed to you. I hope that you have. I don't know how I can elaborate on those, or I'm afraid I would just be restating everything that's in the letter, so I'm not exactly sure how you want me to approach this, short of just reading a letter or two. We do feel like it's a self-created hardship. We feel like Mr. Payne is trying to build a house that is way too big for the size of that lot. And yes, aesthetically, how it will appear on the lot, it seems like it's going to be to the very inches of the green space. We felt like there was using the wetlands along the riverfront as the front yard green space seemed a little extreme and excessive. Also, I have a couple more points. Excuse me for checking my...
No worries, you've got time.
Thanks. Yes, so the main points, that the variances are denied so that the removal of the grand oak at the very edge of the western property boundary is not removed, that they do not use the riverfront wetlands as the required green space, that it does not impact the setback requirements for 319 West Hanlon, which is the existing structure that was on the lot as it was sold to Mr. Payne back in 21, and that house mall. And in that area of old Seminole Heights along the river, most of the lots are 10,000 square feet or more, which I feel like is something that really should be taken into consideration. And perhaps the proposed home could be scaled down somewhat.
I was just about to say, your 3 minutes is up.
Okay.
But there are two of you, so if...
Right, my name is Jamie Randazzo. I also live at 311 West Hanlon Street. I have also been sworn in. And I think in the big picture, you know, that to go along with Melissa's lines and most of the neighbors, you know, in our street, you know, to say that there are two grand oaks on the property. And in looking at the one on the west side there actually is a structure on the property that's right next to it, which comes up, gosh, it looks like it's within a foot or two of the property line. So if you give a variance to build a house over there and take out an oak tree to build closer to that, my wife even said you could probably reach your arm out a window of one structure and touch the next one. Maybe it's not that close, but you know, no documents to show that. But I think in that big picture, the grand oaks, the yellow-crowned night herons that nest in the grand oaks, which Melissa's sister has pictures of those. It's the neighborhood, walking the dogs, and probably that's why a bunch of our neighbors do it, because we're all out there, and it is a canopy over the street. That the oak in question is set back from the road, but variances on all around on the property seems a bit excessive. You probably could do a smaller footprint, I don't know. But at that, I'll be done at my minute and a quarter here, and thanks for the time.
Okay,
All right?
thank you both.
Thanks.
Anyone else in the audience wish to speak about this petition? Seeing none, anyone on the board have any questions for the petitioners?
I have a question. So tree number 2 is the one on the lot, which is noted tree number 4 in the report.
Tree number 4.
So, okay, so
But there's just sort of numbering in the noticing versus,
I just
in the
always
report.
try to be clear because there's
Yeah.
always a confusion.
Was that your question?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
These letters seem to reference that this was a lot split done by this company. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
But you are maintaining that this is not self-imposed. Is that
That's
also correct?
That's a question we should probably pose to legal as to whether the split, because I've seen this before, whether the splitting of a lot is within our purview or impacts the self-imposed criteria.
Kamaria Pettis-Mackel from this city attorney's office. So that is correct. They're not here for your determination for the lot split, but as
That's not what I asked.
getting back to,
Go ahead, go ahead.
as staff indicated, they can go, the property owner can go back, and she can verify that on the record. They can go back to the original plat size that was originally obtained for this property, but they still have to meet the hardship criteria.
Okay, so as I understood the question, it was,
Can you comment
is
on
the
explanation about the split?
is the splitting of a lot something that we as a board can consider in evaluating whether or not there was a self-imposed, whether or not the, how do I phrase this? Whether or not their actions in splitting a lot can be considered in our decision.
No, because in this case, there are no existing structures on the property, and when they split the lots, they created 2 legal lots within the city, so those, this is not the
So
hardship.
our purview then is just on the smaller lot. It has
Correct.
nothing to do with and cannot consider the lot split,
Right.
correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
So I understand the logic you're saying. I'm asking the legal precedent of it, because to say I bought a 7,000 square foot lot, no issue. I split that lot. Oh, now my lot is really small.
Well, if Kamaria Pettis-Mackel from the city attorney's office, if that's what the applicant's basis for the reduction is based upon the lot split, then that's certainly what you should consider that, because that's their basis for asking for the reduction in the setbacks.
Okay, that's what I'm saying, because we heard about 8 or 9 times in the presentation that it's an unusually small lot. That's due to the lot split created by the applicant. Can we consider that or not? Because that's the main point of the argument.
Right, and that's their basis for asking for the reduction in the setbacks, is because the lot is split, and that is what you should take into consideration, because that's what their basis is for the request.
Well, for clarification, as I understand it, the lot is small, and it is unusually small, and it is unusually shaped.
And that's for if that's what their argument is.
Yes, but are we, and we've come up against this argument as well when it comes to the trees, right? The tree existed, they saw it when they purchased the lot, Are we considering that when they buy a lot, that there's a tree there? My understanding is the answer is no. We do not consider that as a self-imposed hardship or a self-created hardship. Similarly, when we look at a lot split, I understood that our purview was limited to, we have an existing legally platted lot, and we cannot go outside the boundaries of that lot. If you're instructing that we can consider the applicant's decision to split that lot, it changes things. So whether or not we can consider that is a significant issue
I understand.
for our decision, and
I understand.
That's the question.
So as the applicant stated, it is a legal non-conforming lot as based, I think you provided a letter from,
A certification letter from.
Mr. Cotton?
From Lisa Escobar, I guess she signed on behalf, but officially.
So if it's a
executed.
legal non-conforming lot, it's a legal lot. But you still, they're giving you their basis or their requests, their justification for the hardship. You have to consider why they're asking to reduce the lot. That's information that they're giving to the board on why they're asking to reduce the setbacks. The city can't control that.
I understand.
So, but getting back to your question, Mr. Chair, it is a legal non-conforming lot. They can build within the setbacks of a legal non-conforming lot, however, as staff has indicated, however, they're asking to reduce the setbacks because
the lot is very small, and it is unusually small, and it is unusually shaped, and it's got trees on it.
Okay.
So, again, I need clarification on this, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but are we limited to, we have a small lot that they have, that they legally possess, and they're coming to us and saying, we have this really small lot and we can only build within this small shape? Or can we say, yes, but you're the ones who decided to split it and get this small lot?
So just for clarification, again, they put initially on their presentation before the board that it's a legal non-conforming lot.
Correct.
They also put on the record, and that was their argument, that they're asking to further to reduce the setbacks because of the irregular shape. I don't want to put their argument on for them, but you can consider what they're asking and their justification for the request based on their argument. If they're presenting information to this board that they're asking to reduce, it's not the city's application, it's their application. It's a legal non-conforming lot. They have setbacks that the board can consider regarding this legal non-conforming lot. Their basis for asking for the variance is up to them to present to the board. And if the board doesn't believe that that's a justification for the setback reduction, then the board is entitled to deny their request. If their request is something that the board believes meets the hardship criteria, then it's the board's purview to grant the hardship. But it's a legal non-conforming lot. But if their argument is to...
I still don't understand the answer to the question, and maybe you answered it and I'm not getting it.
Okay.
But here's the issue, and I'll put it in a hypothetical. If the board concludes, purely hypothetically, that the reason to deny a request is because the applicant chose to split the lot, creating a smaller lot than normal, are we creating a problem for ourselves, or are we legally allowed to do that?
You're creating a problem in that the basis should not be that they split the lot.
That's what I needed to know.
That you're creating that problem, but they provided information of why they're asking for the reduced setbacks.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry that was so challenging.
So then on the plating, which I think you said is from like 1915 or something like that?
The original, 1924 is the critical one.
1924, that's roughly the size of the lot, or maybe exactly the size of the lot as it is today. And what is the total square footage you're proposing to build?
A footprint or?
Total.
Total is, I believe, roughly 3660, I think.
So just like 60 feet bigger than the lot itself? Because I think this lot's like 3,600 square feet.
Oh, yeah, then I'm crossing wires, one moment. 35,
That would be
Oh,
26, 24.
Okay.
2,600.
So back in 1925, what do we think the average house size was? More or less than 25, 24? I think the answer is less than half of that. So my point is, you know, the plat in 1925 is a lot different than the size of the legal non-conforming lot in 2022. And what you intend to build on that is very different than when that plat was created. Which is to say, if that property was never modified since the day it was built in 1925, you'd have the same rights that you have today. But the question of, you know, using the plat as the argument that we're allowed to do this, I think is fine, because you are allowed to do whatever setbacks are applied to that lot today. But to ask to decrease those to make something considerably larger than when that lot was created, I think kind of counteracts your whole argument that the plat matters in this art. You know, if the plat matters, then the setbacks of that plat also matter. And if it doesn't matter because we're building way more than the character of the neighborhood in 1925, then probably the plat argument's not really relevant from my perspective.
So there were no setbacks in 1924, I believe. Okay. So, I mean, for what that's worth. And probably no other zoning requirements technically at all. But I guess I'm understood for your point. I guess, so I'll just leave that.
All right, any other questions for the petitioner? Trying to see if I have one. No. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, you have 3 minutes for rebuttal.
Thank you. I didn't receive any opposition notice technically until earlier last week when I was called by one of the residents. We did a little fact-finding session of a lot of the statistics that went into one of the letters that I was providing the numbers for. And some of the comments are a little skewed. There's no wetland impact, only a wetland setback. That's not before you. The green space can consider the wetland setback. That's not against the code. But even if it didn't include it, we would still meet the green space requirement. In terms of size, I mean, that is the size of the house proposed. That's what we're here kind of asking relief from. There's a lot that influences this lot that wasn't provided on the plat, including wetland setbacks, was not a part of the 24 plat. Grand tree protection areas were not part of the 24 plat. So this is a confluence of multiple things coming together, constraints on a single lot. One of the last pages in your packet shows the site plan again with just sort of red, blue, and green. These are overlays of the footprints of the adjacent properties. They start to get bigger as you go west. This red is the property that exists right over here, 319. This blue is 317. The green is 315. Proposed that we're not, or the applicant hasn't proposed this abnormally large mansion. It's a regular size building relative to this property. They've requested relief from the wider setback or the wider width, which is the 55 feet of the north of the street side setback, and then requesting relief from the wetland setback as a design exception. So this is the original plat and legal nonconforming set the stage for us to ask for something. And this is what we're asking for. It has a lot of components. And we're asking for 2 removals initially, grand tree removals, and that was what was provided in the notice. We changed it to 1, and we always intended to accommodate, but just in case one of the setbacks didn't go through, we wanted to be able to leverage potentially a grand tree removal. But it's just a challenging lot to do something that is equivalent to its neighboring properties, which I do think maybe not spatially relative to 24, but that the intent of the plat was to have a consistent footprint.
Thank you, and that will close the public hearing. With that, I will close the public hearing and open it up for a motion from the board.
I'm not ready to make a motion, but I would like to make one comment.
Okay.
Because of the situation we got in last time. As much as, I understand the trees and the culture of the neighborhood and the fact that the neighbors are really trying to protect the trees, I get that. Most of my comments related to the size of the house on the property, and it is an incredibly oddly shaped property with big trees. So my point is, I think I would be open to bifurcating the tree from the setbacks if anybody was considering that, and if not, I'm open to consider whatever other motions put on the floor.
Okay. I think Ms. Johnson wants to make a motion. Is that accurate, or did you want to continue the discussion?
I would just like to continue the discussion from a different perspective. This lot is on a natural resource. It's on the Hillsborough River, so what we think as neighborhood character is now different. So the importance of the wetland and trees in this neighborhood is much more significant than it would be in an inland area that's already developed. So at the least, I feel like this lot split on this type of property, it creates quite some issues from multiple perspectives, from a neighborhood character, natural resource, even Old Seminole Heights has rejected, this proposal. So I think it's important to take that in consideration. Yes, there's 3 issues, 3 setbacks and trees. I think I would like to see a different type of site plan, something that kind of, respects the lot a little bit better.
So just in the vein of continuing that discussion, it's an interesting perspective, and I appreciate it. And certainly my view on the way we do this is I never have a stake in any of these things. So however the vote turns out, I'm always okay with that. I also think that people have a right to use their property without being burdened by what other people may want, even though I think trees are critical. I think they're very important to the extent they prevent someone from using property that they own. The code tells us that we have obligations and how to deal with it. I don't know that this is the right site plan for what we have being, for what is here, but certainly I think given what we've seen, they're entitled to some relief. And so I'm open to some relief. I just don't know that it's what's being asked for, particularly because we have some of the city administration saying, well, the side setbacks probably we couldn't support in this fashion, that kind of thing. But with that, I'll say, again, let's go ahead and see if we have a motion that we can consider, and then we can figure it out from there. Do you want to make a motion or just continue discussion?
Just one quick point. If they're saving a grand tree, would their side yard setback would be reduced to 6 feet versus the 7?
If they're saving...
They're saving the front grand tree up front.
Right.
Then they would have some sort of relief of the original setbacks. I don't remember exactly what that relief is.
If they're saving both or just the one?
If they're saving just the one.
Okay.
They still would have some relief.
Right.
Mr. Heister, would you be able to also fix the relief?
But would they be willing to
It would
conform
affect
to
the
the
sides,
setbacks?
the rears.
So it's,
I'm just saying there might be some relief that you're talking about for
Well, but they
creating a
don't
better
need us.
site plan.
They don't need us for that.
But it impacts whether or not we feel obligated to go further than that.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So you're saying that they get some, the reduction would be
That's my
less because they automatically get some.
Correct. It wouldn't seem quite as a substantial request if those numbers were much smaller.
But we know that those numbers are, I don't know.
Right, so I'm saying if they're going from 6 to 3 or from 12 to 10 instead of 19 to 10, it makes a very large difference.
Ms. Pettis-Mackle, do we have the ability to ask city staff a question, even though the public hearing is closed?
Kamaria Pettis-Mackle from the City Attorney's Office, you'd have to have a motion to open up the public hearing, ask staff questions, and then still allow the.
If that's something that you feel is important, do you want to make a motion to open up the public hearing?
I would like to make a motion to reopen the public hearing.
Okay, is there a second on that motion? All those in favor say aye. All right. Question, ask your question.
Sure. Considering they are going to save one of the grand trees instead of removing all the grand trees, would they get some sort of relief on the existing setbacks? So maybe some of these numbers that we're saying here from 7 to 3, 19 to 10, 20 to 10 might be slightly different than what we're looking at.
Yeah, so Steve and I started with natural resources. So how the code reads for that section, that footnote 7, that was been brought up a few times today. You get a 40% reduction in the rear, a 1 foot reduction in the sides, and a 25% reduction in the front.
And would this tree that's right over the property line qualify because it's impacting their buildable area?
Correct.
Okay, that's good to know.
And it can apply to all 4. The code doesn't define it as just one. It leaves it open for all 4. So.
Right, you're saying they could use the reduction on all 4 side, yard, rear, and front setbacks?
Correct.
Because they're saving that tree?
Correct.
Even if we approve the removal of the one they're asking for, they'd still have that ability because of the one that they're keeping?
Correct.
Or dealing with?
So just quick math on the thing. So their rear yard would go from a request of 20 down to 12, side down to 6, and the front from 19 down to 14.25.
Correct.
Right.
But and that's without your guys' approval.
That's without any approval
what's just
whatsoever.
allowed.
Right.
By code.
I would love to make a motion to close the public hearing.
We don't need a motion for that if you're done. Oh, you're right. Since we ask questions, they get some additional rebuttal time.
I won't rebut long, but we are happy to amend the potential request to bring the side setbacks to 5 on both, just to make this trickier for you.
Or rather, you would consent to a lesser reduction.
Consent to a lesser reduction.
Fair.
Yes. That's
okay.
it. Thank
we
you.
appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. With that, I will reclose the public hearing and again open it up if anyone would like to make a motion given the new information that we have. Mr. Pestor.
I would like to make a motion, move that variance request for case VRB 2256 for property located at 321 West Hanlon Street be granted as depicted on the site plan and represented at the public hearing for the removal of a grand tree based upon the petitioner meeting the burden of proof with regard to the 6 factors for determining tree removal as set forth in section 27-284-25F4 of the City Code for granting tree removal, specifically that the evidence provided in this record showed that there is an oddly shaped lot with 2 grand trees impacting the buildable area from either side of the lot, and that removal of one of those trees, in this case the 39-inch grand tree on the, I believe, western side of the property could be removed to make for a more usable lot.
All right, so that I understand your motion, you are seeking approval of everything that's being asked for with the reduction, or just the
Nope.
removal of the grand tree?
That was just a tree removal, and I cited the tree code and the 6 factors for trees only.
Okay,
So is there gonna be another motion
That'll be up to the board.
okay.
This is just about the tree.
So, so what you're saying is you're bifurcating and seeking approval only of the tree removal at this stage. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
I would rather see the setback first before the tree.
Okay, well, we have a motion on the floor.
It's on the floor.
Let's see if there's a second.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Now, is there discussion on that motion? You would rather see, go ahead.
Yeah, so I would be okay with the tree removed if I know that the setbacks that are now implied with this tree being removed and the other one saved are going to be maintained.
So
I would
if the
like-
tree is removed, they'll get the reduction by right that we just discussed, which is not what they're asking for,
Right,
but they will get that at a minimum.
but then we'll have to make another motion that denies these other three.
Yes, if that's so.
So if we have, I'm taking a chance.
Well, but
This is not approving those either way.
Right.
Right, but
But-
we could also approve those in
If-
another motion.
If there are,
So-
if there are sufficient votes to approve it, yes.
You're right. That's a totally open issue, the setback.
That makes me nervous.
You'll still get input on it, though.
Yes.
The
Sure.
same as this.
Yeah. All right, well, we have a motion on the floor, and this motion is only to, it's a bifurcated motion, only to approve the removal of a 39-inch grand oak. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of removal of the tree, say aye. All right, all those opposed? Okay, the removal of the tree passes 3-2. Now, how, if at all, would we like to deal with the remaining setback requests? We either need a motion to approve some portion of it, or we need a motion to deny it. And if that is a concern for you, then why don't you make the motion to deny it?
Okay.
Or somebody else?
The tree's already gone, so, okay. Let me get my. Okay, so this is move that the variance request for case VRB 2256 for the property located at 321 West Hanlon Street for a reduction of a front yard setback from 19 feet to 10 feet, side yard setbacks from 7 foot to 3 foot, rear yard setback from 20 foot to 10 foot, be denied due to the failure of the petitioner to meet its burden of proof to provide competent and substantial evidence in the record at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or a practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria as set forth in 2780 of the city code. Specifically that with this new tree removal, you will have, more granted setbacks, and would like to see a new site plan that's not a self-created hardship.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Johnson. Is there a second?
I second it.
All right, we have a motion to deny and a second. All those in, is there discussion on the motion? Does anyone want to have a discussion on the motion? All right, all those in favor of the denial, say aye. All those opposed? All right, the motion to deny the setback reduction passes 4-1. And you know the drill, you have 10 days to appeal should you need it.
Thank you.
Okay?
Maria Pettis-Malco from the City Attorney's Office. Board, we earlier had a motion to continue VRB 22-58 for the property located at 8715 North 46th Street. The applicant is actually present. The basis for the motion to continue was that the applicant needed an interpreter. The applicant is present, and I'd actually asked the applicant to state on the record whether or not he does in fact need an interpreter. If he does not need an interpreter,
Yeah, but we've already continued it. If there were any people here to speak on that petition, they're gone. We don't know that there was anyone here or not. We've already continued it.
Was there public opposition for that?
How would we know?
Yeah, that's true. So can you go on to the next case and let me speak then? And you continue to the what? July? What?
Yeah.
All right, the next case before the board is BRB 2259, and this is addressed at 3124 West Waverly Park, and the property owners are Marcos and Luis Lopez. This is zoned RS60, and the variance request is to reduce the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 4.5 feet. And this is for the purpose of extension of an existing pool deck and elevated spar. And the code section in reference is section 27-290.3 that has, that stipulates that pools designed with a retaining wall or having an elevated deck above 12 inches above the finished grade must meet the required setback for principal structures for the underlying zoning district. And this is an aerial showing the subject property. It is an interior lot in the South Tampa Planning District. And this is a site plan showing the existing home, the existing pool, and the addition here in the hatch is the addition to the existing deck. And here we have sections showing the pool and the proposed deck area. This was reviewed by Natural Resources and found consistent with conditions. That at the time of permitting, this would have to comply with Chapter 27 of the City of Tampa Code and the Tree and Landscape Technical Manual. It was reviewed by right-of-way and found consistent with no comments. Transportation review was not required. And this is a blow-up of that proposed plan for the extension of the pool deck with that new extension. We received no letters of objection. There are letters of support, 3 letters of support that was attached in the staff report. These are pictures showing the existing condition. We have an aerial that shows that pool area from the top right corner. And we're seeing the existing pool and the existing conditions as they currently exist. In the determination of this variance request, the board shall consider section 27-80 as the criteria for approving or denying a variance request. And I will be available if you have any other questions.
I have a question.
Sure.
It appears that the pool and deck already exist based on these pictures.
Correct.
So why would we need to reduce it from 20? It's already been reduced from 20 down to 4.5. It looks like, I mean, clearly the setback's not 20 feet now.
Right. So for the pool has its own setbacks, but because they're
Are we vesting?
they have an addition. I'm sorry.
Are we just vesting? Is that what's happening here? They're making a modification and we're having to vest it?
Yes. So they're vesting what is already existing, and because this deck is elevated above 12 inches, it has to meet principal structure setbacks. So if this were,
It's the elevation.
yes, right.
Got it.
Yeah.
That answers my question. Thank you.
Everything's existing?
The pool
We'll
is
let them
existing,
present
the
it.
enclosure is existing, but because they're extending this deck and it's above 12 inches, it has to meet the principal structure setbacks.
Okay, applicant, come on up, state your name, your address, confirm that you've been sworn. Name, your
Marcos-
address, confirm that you've been sworn, and then.
Marcos Lopez, 3124 West Waverly Park, and I have been sworn in.
Awesome. You have 10 minutes.
Perfect. I want to thank you guys for being here tonight. I know it's a long night. Thank you, Jane, for helping me upload those pictures the other day. I know that was kind of tedious. So what we're doing is we've done a total renovation of the home. When we submitted the permitting, this came back that it needed a variance because we were raising the existing deck. That part of that deck is already higher than the ground level. We're trying to extend that deck a little bit more to have a little bit more usable space back there, create less tripping hazards, and actually elevate the rest of that deck on the right side of the hot tub to the height of the hot tub that's currently already that high. So that's pretty much it. I mean, it's a tripping hazard for the kids. My mother's elderly, so we're just trying to level up all that out so that we have one leveled area to be able to hang out in the backyard and utilize that space a little bit more. Everything is inside the screen over the top of the existing pool deck, so we're not encroaching any further back. I've got support from the neighbors on both sides and from the neighbor in the rear, which would, those are the ones that would be obviously negatively affected if this was really an issue for any of those guys. So I'll make it short and sweet. Hopefully this one's easier than some of the other ones I've seen tonight, and I appreciate your consideration.
Before you wrap, can you show us on the pictures the area, just so we can be more clear?
Can you put them back up again, James?
It's not a question.
Yeah.
All right, so how do I do this? Yeah, I can probably show it better then. Okay.
Yeah. When we get to the question portion, you can ask. Oh, there you go. That kind of
All right,
helps.
so we're looking to extend that deck. See where that grill is right here? That little area down here is really not real usable space. And we have a lot of steps. The hot tub is higher over here than when you come out of the house. So what we're looking to do is just have one small step coming out of the backyard, out of the back deck, rear door of the house, so that everything's level. And then extend that back. Currently, my grill is on this side of the wall. I don't know if we have a shot of that or not. And it's real cramped in there. Not a whole lot of room for seating. So the grill area is right here currently against this wall. So we just want to extend it back, just even the back deck up so that the line is even with the back of that hot tub back there, and extend that so that it's all one height.
Okay. Does that conclude your presentation?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what else I could add to that besides, I don't think I'm asking for much, just raising my current deck a little bit to be even with a hot tub so we don't have tripping hazards for the kids. And got a grandchild, I've got another one coming on Friday. So just trying to make it, more usable space for the family to be able to hang out and enjoy the pool area.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak about this petition? Seeing none, are there any questions from the board for the petitioner? Fire away.
Would you be open to a condition, since this would be a primary structure setback, would you be open to a condition that this never be enclosed, meaning that you never put a roof and walls around this space?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a pool cage. It's outdoor space.
Yeah, I have to ask, because if you left, moved out, and this was approved, somebody could technically build the house back to there.
No issues.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Any other questions for the petitioner?
So I have a question for the city. Is that later?
No, that's now. Do it now. Sorry, I shouldn't have been so restrictive in my description of questions.
Okay. I have a question for the city. Is this work that was done previously without a permit, and then it's asking to renovate the work that was done without a permit? Because it looks like the spa is already built high, or is that not a retaining wall?
Can I? Okay.
You'll have rebuttal time, so if you need to address something, you'll have time.
Jane Madden, Development Coordination. So the work that they did was done with permits, so this was not work without permits.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just was having trouble understanding this height requirement thing. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none. You have 3 minutes to say anything else you want to say.
So when the pool was built originally, we built a home 24 years ago. When we built the pool a few years after that, that height of that hot tub was within code. Everything was done permitted correctly, so that was, and that, I guess the code changed since then, and that's why I'm having to come before you guys.
Okay, if there are no further questions, seeing none, I will close, and you're done with your presentation,
Yes,
your
sir.
3-minute
Thank you.
rebuttal? Thank you, sorry. Seeing none, I will then close the public hearing and open it up for motion from the board. Mr. Pester.
I move that variance request for case VRB 2259 located at 3124 West Waverly Park, as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing, for a reduction in the rear yard from 20 feet to 4.5 feet for the extension of the existing pool deck and elevated spa with encroachment for eaves and gutters, with the following condition: that the area never be enclosed, and that said variance as condition be granted upon the applicant presenting competent substantial evidence in the record at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 2780 of the city code, specifically that this condition already exists on the deck and they are trying to extend that condition further to create less steps and a more even surface, and that the pool was built before this code existed and they're just trying to extend this condition within the setbacks that will already exist for the deck and pool.
Okay, is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion?
And if he accepts the condition.
Oh,
He did.
he definitely accepted the
Yes,
condition.
absolutely.
He's accepting the condition. All right. A motion, a second, condition accepted. All those in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
The next applicant needs to get sworn in.
Okay. Let's take 5. to go. 2 more to go. Let's go ahead and swear in anyone who hasn't been sworn.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I do.
Okay. All right, 2263?
All right, 9 down, 2 to go. The next case is VRB 2263. This is addressed at 200 South Hoover Boulevard. The zoning is R01 Residential Office. The property owner is W State Street LLC. And the variance request is to reduce the tree retention requirement from 50% to 0%. And this is for single-family attached residences. And the code requirement, the code section in reference is section 27-284.3.1 that has the minimum of 50% retention for existing trees on site for single-family use type on wooded land. This is the subject property shown there highlighted in the orange. It is a corner lot in the South Tampa Planning District of the City of Tampa. And this is a survey showing the existing condition on this site. And this is a site plan showing what is the proposed development on this site. This was reviewed by right-of-way, and, well, this was not reviewed by right-of-way. This was reviewed by Natural Resources, and their memo is attached in the staff report. Transportation reviewed and found it consistent with no comments. And this is a tree, a landscape plan showing the trees on the property, those that would be impacted by this development.
So, I'm sorry, that's the plan for what they're gonna put on the property or what they're taking off the property?
For what they're putting on the property.
Okay. All right, keep going.
There's pictures that have been provided by the applicant showing the existing conditions, the existing buildings, and the existing trees. Here we're seeing those palm trees. I'm not sure what corner of the property this is. I believe it's at the entrance.
We're one short. We have another one? No?
Oh, were there only 5?
No, there's one. Is it the same as what was presented in our packet?
I don't know. I don't know. Look at all these cool and fancy pictures. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. More pictures of the existing conditions on the site, specifically showing all the trees. In the determination of the variance request before the board, you shall consider section 27-80, a criteria for the approval or denial of the variance request. And I'll be available, and Stephen will be available if you have any questions.
Okay, is the applicant here? Come on up, state your name, your address, confirm that you've been sworn.
Adam Wolf, 5602 West Linebaugh Street. I have been sworn in. I'm the architect and developer on the project.
And Ricky Pederica, Dark Moss, 308 East 7th Avenue, project arborist in LA. I've been sworn.
Okay. You have 10 minutes.
All right. I'd like to speak a little bit about this project, kind of holistically, and then how it relates to our request for this variance. This site is uniquely situated in terms of its adjacent uses. It's currently in the Regional Mixed Use 100 future land use category, which is quite dense and intense with its limitations on what's allowable. However, to the east, we have a residential 6 land use category. This property has been before City Council on multiple occasions over the last few years, and whether going for a PD or a variance, They were unsuccessful, and I think due in large part to neighborhood opposition. Our proposal has considered the neighborhood's concerns. We've met with the neighborhood association on 4 occasions, individual property owners to the east of us, and they're in favor of this project. What we're aiming to do is strike a balance between that future land use category and, the city's desire for higher intensity of use there, but then also be cognizant and aware of the concerns of the stakeholders, particularly the adjacent neighbors in the single-family detached homes. So in order to strike what we think is a sound urban planning proposal, considering the intensity and density of uses to the northwest and the north, but still remain with a neighborhood feel and quality of heights and setbacks, we are seeking to get relief from the tree retention requirements so that we can accommodate both parties' concerns in a way that's palatable for the neighborhood. And I'll let Ricky discuss the details.
This is the existing site plan, which, if it looks like several square-ish buildings with parking lot over the whole thing, it's because it is that. The trees, there's about 70 palm trees, and they're in little islands just scattered around. They're just parking lot trees, and there's a handful, literally 3 or 4 live oaks scattered in this. So the site is very much the existing site is very much a concrete wasteland currently that consists of very high quality palm trees and live oaks in very small planters. But the code doesn't care what the existing condition is for the trees. It just provides for a site that's non-wooded, which means it has less than 50% of canopy coverage. 50% of the trees in fair or better condition need to be preserved. So unless we preserve the arrangement of this office park to roughly 50% of that area, unless we do that, we're going to impact all these trees. So this is an overlay of a color-coded overlay of the trees on the proposed site plan. The greens represent the condition of the tree, just as a guide. Dark green, excellent, good. Fair is white, poor is tan, camel, and then brown. So generally, these are really nice trees, and trees worth preserving or relocating. And since they're palms, they're very easy to transplant. But the code doesn't allow us to transplant trees for the sake of meeting this retention provision, even though palm trees are very much capable of doing that. So that's the nature of the hardship here for any pre-developed site. Unless it's redeveloped in relatively the same arrangement, the tree preservation is always going to be triggered when it's sort of a full site redesign. And the applicant didn't create this layout of palm trees in the parking lot. It was provided in the initial design. And the applicant the site plan that we're providing could accommodate relocations of these palms, which are, they're easy to relocate compared to, let's say a large live oak. There's plenty of green space provided, but the code does not allow that type of accounting for tree retention. And the proposed site, this site plan, reduces the amount of impervious cover over the existing site plan. And in that reduction, by 6%, in that reduction, and with the current code, more canopy trees will be required and provided than are existing. So we're not far enough to know how much more canopy we'll have yet, but we know that it will easily exceed the canopy that's currently on the site at day one with the plans provided. The comp plan speaks to trees, but it speaks to mature tree canopy, which is not present on this site except as palms. And the ability to get mature tree canopy will be improved with the proposed site plan compared to the site plan that's provided in the forest condition that's currently there. So given that this is just a remnant office parcel that has crashed against the rocks of rezonings a few times, or of neighborhood opposition, the neighborhood finally agrees to a building product with the proposed design, but it has this unfortunate technicality with tree retention that we're requesting relief of because it's specifically related to a pre-developed condition that doesn't match the post-developed condition. It's not a pristine forest, it's not New Tampa on virgin lands. These are just ornamental, mostly ornamental trees, required landscaping trees from code passed. And we're requesting relief from having to consider the preservation of those palms only. That's all I have.
Okay, does that conclude your presentation this evening?
Yes, thank you.
All right, is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak about this petition? Seeing none, does the board have any questions for the petitioner, for staff, for anyone? Not to be restrictive. I was unnecessarily restrictive the last time. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Would you be open to a condition, or is there a code in place that would preclude the need for this condition, that you place back on the site at least the same number of trees that you're removing? It appears you're doing that in your plan, but I'd like to maybe tie you to it, unless there's a code that's already going to require you to do that because of what you're building.
We're required 96.
Yeah, we'd take that condition.
Okay.
Because just with our calculations currently, without firm designs or approvals, we have a 2-tree differential. Can easily make that up.
Okay. That's my only question.
I have 2 questions, and kind of related to that is just, do you meet the mitigation requirements that the city has with your current plan?
We don't know yet.
You don't know yet.
But let's say, because there's so many palms, the code allows a substitution of type 1s to palms that if we provide the required, I project and feel confident that when we provide the required type runs, we'll easily blow the mitigation out of the water.
Okay. I just want to make sure that
Sure.
it looks like you can, because you are increasing the tree canopy and the landscape area with this prior to this asphalt parking lot. Second question I had is, Mr. Eister had a memo with some conditions. Do you feel like you can meet those conditions? There's 6 of them.
Can he come up and repeat them? I don't remember them either.
Can he remember all 6?
Mr. Eister's here just for this reason.
I think they were off-site tree conditions.
So, Stephen Eister with Natural Resources. So the conditions, kind of just run through them real quick. Number 1 is the mitigation, which has been brought up already. Number 2 is the variance will not apply to the right-of-way trees. I know you guys have some right-of-way trees. Those have to go through parks.
Okay.
That won't be covered because they're not on property.
Okay.
3 through 6, if you want to read through them, are all the standard, like VUA buffers. They're just kind of more general comments. They're going to have to meet at the time of building, no matter what.
Yeah, we don't have any problems with those.
Yes, okay. So,
Great.
we agree to all the conditions. We're only requesting relief from this retention percentage. That second one, the right-of-way trees were not considered in the calculation of the percentage, so I didn't really interface with those because they're kind of
Understood, yeah.
their own
All
thing.
right.
Okay, sounds like we've got everything covered. Any other questions? Seeing none, you have 3 minutes for rebuttal. Should you
Thank you
choose
for your
to
time this evening, and we look forward to a decision.
Awesome. Well, with that, I will close the public hearing and open it up for motion from the board.
I could do one, but I'm not sure if I'm reading from the right section. Does this come out of the tree section or the regular?
Anyone on staff or legal want to advise on that one? Which form should we use?
Section 27-80.
27-80.
The normal one.
Okay.
Okay. Then I can do that.
Okay.
I move that variance request for case VRB 2263, property located at 2000 South Hoover Boulevard, as depicted on the site plan and presented at the public hearing for reduction of the tree retention requirement from 50% to 0%, with the following condition: that the applicant has agreed to match at least the same number of trees in the new development as they are removing, and that said variance as condition be granted based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 2780 of the city code. Specifically that in order to redevelop this property, they need to move or remove trees because otherwise they're tied to the layout of the property that already exists. They got full neighborhood support. We saw no opposition, and with the stated condition, should be providing a property that's better than the one that exists today.
Okay, we have a motion with condition by Mr. Pastor. We have a second.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Discussion on the motion.
Yeah. Does this automatically include the conditions from natural resources, because it's in there?
I think they have to meet those at building, at the time of
Okay.
issue of building permits. So yes, 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 everybody's shaking their heads. All right. Motion, any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to approve with conditions say aye. Any opposed? No. All right, pass 5-0.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a good night. For real this time.
The last case before the board tonight is VRB 2265. This is addressed at 3818 West State Street. The property owner is W State Street LLC. This is on RO residential office. And the request is to reduce the east side yard setback from 7 feet to 3 feet and 8 inches. And this is for air conditioning equipment. The code section in reference is section 27-290.6. And for all uses apart from residential, air conditioning equipment shall be placed in compliance with the required principal structure setbacks. This is the aerial showing the subject property. It's a corner lot in the West Shore TRA planning district in the city of Tampa. And this is a site plan that's been provided by the applicant showing the existing conditions on the site. We see the structure, existing building, and that to the east side is where that air conditioning equipment is proposed, the proposed location for the air conditioning equipment. This was reviewed by Natural Resources and found inconsistent with technical code. And they uploaded a Natural Resources memo. This was reviewed by Transportation and found consistent, and reviewed by Right of Way and found consistent with no comments. Pictures of the subject property and the area where the proposed air conditioning equipment is to go, provided by the applicant. We received no letters of support or objection from the neighbors or from the community. And staff is available if you have any questions regarding any part of this presentation.
I do have a quick question. So you said it's a corner lot?
Well, the
Yeah.
Church Street kind of extends down that. Oh well, it's more of an
Yeah.
easement. It's not really a street. Yeah, it's an interior lot. Sorry.
Okay. So
Yeah.
it's a, it's, yeah, all right. I
It's
see.
an interior lot.
All right. Gotcha.
My mistake.
You can see my confusion.
Yeah, it's an interior lot.
All right, did you have more to share with us?
Yep, that's it.
Okay, well then, let's get the applicant up here.
On retaining the determination of the variance request before you, you shall consider section 27-80 as the criteria for approval or denial of the variance request.
So you always say that before you sit down, but then we forget.
I think I'm obligated to say it, so.
Fair enough. Applicant, state your name, your address, confirm that you've been sworn, and then you'll have 10 minutes to make the presentation.
Sean Seafried, representing 38 8th State Street. And yes, I have been sworn in.
And Brett Hazelwood, representing 3818 West State Street, and I have been sworn in.
Mushir Shinuda, 3818 West State Street, and I've been sworn in.
Terrific. 10 minutes, go.
So thank you for taking the time. The reason for our request is the building, as it's situated on the lot, we are right up against our south setback. We requested to put the air conditioning unit on the north side of the property. North side of the property is the side of the property facing State Street, and we were told by members of the building department that that would not be allowed. The west side of the property contains a parking lot with the required number of parking spots that we are required to have. I believe there's only, what, 7 or 8 parking spaces?
Yeah.
7 parking spaces, so it's already tight parking, so. And based on our discussion with the people at the building department, they were told that the best place would be to put the unit on the roof. Our proposal is to put the unit on the east side of the property for a couple reasons, and the hardships being, it would be a safety issue. The roof is a 12.6.
It's a 12.6 pitched roof, so it'd be obviously a safety issue. We would have to create a platform and put a ladder, and it's just not optimal, and it's a lot of costs associated with that, obviously.
It's also a existing roof, so there would be structural modifications that would have to be made, and the safety issue along with that. So, Bashir, anything you'd like to add? So that's our proposal, is to put it on the east side of the property, on the ground, or on a stand off the ground, if on the ground would not be approved, so.
Okay, does that conclude your presentation this evening?
It does.
All right. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak about this presentation, as silly as it is to ask an empty room? I do it anyway. Seeing none, is there any anyone on the board who has questions for the petitioners or staff?
I had a quick question about the site plan. It looks like you have the AC unit behind suite, or right there in between suite 100 and suite 200, and that little AC square, is that going to service both 100 and 200?
It's just for 100.
Okay, and then I noticed there's a really long concrete looking pad that runs all the way down
There,
to the
that's
southeast
not
corner of
accurate.
suite 200. Are we looking for a variance here for just the unit, or are we looking for this variance for this concrete pad that runs the whole?
There's not, the
length?
concrete pad is not, that's not accurate, that's not there.
That's not a thing?
There's not even.
Yeah,
there.
it's a
shown on your site
sod.
plan
We
that's
would
been
just be
submitted?
setting it on a equipment pad, which would be roughly 40 by 40.
So there would be 2 units, one behind suite 200, one behind suite 100, both at like the southeast corner?
It would be one on the suite 100, on that existing structure there.
Okay, so it's just that one new square you're showing?
Correct.
Then that strange stuff underneath it doesn't really exist? It's just,
That depiction, I don't know why that was drawn in, but it's not, there's no concrete walkway in the back there.
Okay, so if we approve this variance per the site plan, we're only talking about that one condenser?
Correct.
That's correct.
Okay, just making sure, thank you.
I see that there are some conditions that Stephen put in, and that does kind of address the AC units shall be installed on an AC condenser pad, so I assume you will do this?
Correct.
Great, so I kind of think that also answers that question too.
Any other questions for petitioner staff? Seeing none, You have 3 minutes for rebuttal should you choose to use it.
You have anything to add?
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Then I will close the public hearing and open it up for a motion from the board. All right, Mr. Murphy.
I move that the variance request for case VRB 22-65 for the property located at 3818 West State Street be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a reduction in side yard setback from 7 feet to 3.8 feet, or 3 feet 8 inches for an air conditioning unit.
Can you state east, the east?
Yes, sorry, the east side yard setback from 7 feet to 3 feet 8 inches. Based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 27-80 of the city code, specifically that with the location of the building and the original site plan having the air conditioner located along the street side and then being told later that it is not allowed to be there, the other sides of the building are not conducive to holding one of these air conditioning units, and it must lie on the east side of the building.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, your petition passes 5-0. We're done for the evening. Have a great day.
Thank you.
All right, nothing else from staff? Have a great evening. Thank you.